Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to your Wednesday. We will be getting started in about 60 seconds. As you are coming in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. Tell me your location, where you are checking in from. Tell me your location as you are checking in. Oh, we can pin the comment like that. Okay, so I'm just finding out about reminding myself rather of the pin comment option that you have available over on Rumble Studio, which we are live on, because YouTube Studio still has been very janky for the last. YouTube Studio has been janky like all of 2025. So we will mess with Rumble Studio. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. King Works. Good morning. Good to see you in here. We got the pinned comment on Rumble Studio. I got to remember to do that. We are live on Facebook. Good morning, Facebook. Live on LinkedIn. Live on Instagram. We are here live over on TikTok. Shout out your locations where y'all checking in from over on TikTok. Please like the live stream. We got 500 likes in here. Like the live stream. Those of you checking in on TikTok. Progress Toucher. Good morning. Renee, good morning to you. King's daughter. Good morning, Rodney. Good morning. One Good Cherry checking in from NC. Top 5. I don't know what you're asking about if you're talking to me. King's daughter checking in from PA. Shout out to PA. We got DC in the building. Sherry 1967 from Michigan. Shout out to Michigan. Number 1 gifter badge. Congrats early. Del Monte. I don't know what that is. Mississippi's in the building. Zach. Bristol, Tennessee. A unicorn checking in from Philadelphia. Shout out to Philadelphia. Grand Rapids, Michigan. Philadelphia, my hometown, by the way. I am coming to you live from South Florida, but my hometown is Philadelphia, PA. Grand Rapids, Michigan is in the building. Indiana homegirls, good morning. And okay, so what we're going to talk about here today is this possible. I don't know if any of you saw this, but it was during that time that Elon Musk was calling Indiana, good morning. During that time that Elon Musk was going at Donald Trump, if y'all remember that from about 2 weeks ago when Elon was trashing Trump. Wait a minute. Yeah, Elon Musk was trashing Trump for about, maybe about 2 days on X because he was pissed off about something. We don't know exactly what he was pissed off about. There's been a lot of speculation and theories thrown out there about why exactly Elon got so mad. He claimed it was over that one big, beautiful bill, which has, interestingly enough, been completely wiped off of the headlines. Y'all notice this? That this is what happens on when anything involving Donald Trump. He is able to easily wipe any news story off the headlines and replace it with a different news story, which again, nobody's talking about that bill anymore, which hasn't been voted on yet. Now everybody's talking about this thing with Iran and Israel. But what Elon Musk threw out there during his tirade, I guess we can call it, was a poll where he said how many people would be interested in a new political party being created that represented the 80% of people who are in the middle. And what he was saying was you got, of course, maybe about, it's like the bell curve, this just distribution. About 10% of voters are hardcore Democrats, and they're always going to vote Democrat no matter what option is available. Then you got another 10% of voters who are hardcore Republican. They will always vote Republican. Then you got about 80% of the people. This is what Elon was proposing. About 80% of the people are in the middle, meaning they may be Democrat or Republican now based on the two options that we have, this binary system. But if there was another party in the middle that represented the interests of the 80% of people who could really go either way and their options are open, even though they may vote Democrat or Republican right now, how many would be interested in that? Now, this is a pretty simple question. Of course, the answer is going to be yes. Damn near everybody would say yes to that question because, again, most people are not so hard on the left or on the right that they will always vote for that side. So he threw this idea out there, this new potential new political party called the America Party that Elon was aiming at. And it was aimed at representing this large swath of Americans who feel in any way politically alienated by the current two-party system. And I don't think everybody is. I think most Americans are not satisfied with there being a two-party system. Personally, I don't like the fact that there's only two parties available, because now we have this binary option every time there's an election. You either pick the Democrat or you pick the Republican, and the Democrats have their way of doing things and the Republicans have their way of doing things. Now, we know every candidate is unique. Kamala Harris and Barack Obama are not the same person, and Joe Biden is not the same, and Hillary Clinton is not the same, and Bill Clinton is not the same, but they all are directionally pretty much going in the same direction. They're just packaging it in a different way. Same thing on the Republican side. Donald Trump's a little bit different type of unicorn because he's not a traditional politician, but the ones that we have known about, such as George W. Bush, or what would have been Al Gore, what would have been John Kerry, or George H.W. Bush, they are all directionally going in the same direction. It's just different figurehead giving us the exact same story. So he's citing what he calls, again, the 80% of people who would be in the middle. He's suggesting that most Americans don't align with the left or the right completely, but they're forced to vote for whichever one they think is better at that time, or what some people say the lesser of two evils every time that there's an election. And I think a lot of people do look at things that way. Now, Trump has, again, stirred the pot to be a little bit different than how it usually is. But usually in elections, so the last one before Trump came along, but you had the Obama election, which was a little bit different because you had a black guy running and he had a real chance of winning, and he actually did. Prior to that, I think the last election where people were looking at it like, okay, neither one of these guys is a good candidate, but we got to pick somebody. So let's just hold our nose and pick one. And I said John Kerry. John Kerry is actually a Democrat. But it was that election, that 2004 election. So you had the W. Bush versus Al Gore, the hanging Chads election, where it went down to the state of Florida pretty much. And George W. Bush wins. And then you had the 2004 when Bush ran for re-election against John Kerry. And a lot of people were framing that at this time as, okay, we don't like either one of these candidates. Neither one of these is a good choice, but we got to pick somebody. So I guess we got to pick one of these mofos to be the president. Please like the live over on TikTok. We're at 5,000 likes to get up to 10,000, please. So we got to pick somebody to lead the country. Let's just go with one of these guys. And I think a lot of people have looked at it that way. Traditionally, if you're old enough, you probably remember. Again, it's been a little bit different now because then we got Barack Obama being a black guy who actually had a chance to win. And Barack Obama changed the way people were looking at it a bit over those two cycles. Then you get Donald Trump the next three cycles. So the last 5 cycles, we've had some anomalies that we normally do not have. You got a black guy, number one, for 2 cycles. And then you got a guy who's not a traditional politician, but actually, and again, both of them had a chance to win. We've had people who kind of were off the beaten path in the past. Jesse Jackson comes to mind. Ross Perot comes to mind. And I'm sure there have been plenty others who I don't even remember. But the last 5 election cycles, between 2 for Barack and 3 for Trump, it's been a little bit different than what people traditionally said about the options. Now, what I think is going to happen in 2028 is going to start to lean back in that direction where people are like, I don't like either one of these candidates, but we got to pick somebody. Now, the difference is, as it stands right now, MAGA has the momentum because Trump is in office and he's the president right now. And he has someone who looks like they're being groomed to be the next candidate in J.D. Vance, our current vice president. And he's looked pretty good. He's been generally in playing a role of vice president, not talking too much, but saying enough when he needs to say it. They have some momentum. MAGA has momentum. So J.D. Vance is going to have the MAGA momentum behind him. And the Democratic Party, at the same time, what makes it a little bit unique for the Democratic Party is that we don't know who their top candidate is right now. Right now, it's looking like Governor Newsom from California. I don't know if that bodes well for Democratic voters. If that your number one guy is Newsom, who's going to be the VP, we don't know. I don't think it's looking too good, but it's early. Okay, it's early. We're still 3+ years away from about 3 years from now. There'll be strong campaigning, we'll say. So it's still early for the Democratic Party, but it's looking a little bit different right now. And hey, maybe this is just what the political landscape is going to be moving forward, but I doubt it. I think it's going to go back to how it was in 2004, where people are like, I don't like this person. I don't like this person, Democrat, Republican, but we got to pick somebody. So let's just pick somebody. I think eventually we're going to get back to that probably by 2036 at the latest. 2036 at the latest, we're going to be right back in there. And let's get the likes up on TikTok, folks. Let's get the 10,000 likes. We're at 7.9K. Let's get the 10,000 likes, please. So this idea, of course, doesn't have any formal structure, no leadership, no policy, nothing like that. It was just Elon throwing out this idea. But the concept got a lot of people thinking, and it stirred up some conversation, which we're having right now in the media, and on social platforms. So supporters of this concept argue that it could finally disrupt the entrenched political duopoly. Duopoly, that's a Kamala Harris word. Shout out to Kamala Harris, duopoly. And critics see it as just a vanity thing, lacking substance, no infrastructure needed to pose a serious challenge. Now, there's a high level of public dissatisfaction with everything that's happening in politics. A lot of people who have been Democrat don't like the Democrats. A lot of people who have been Republican don't like the Republicans. And of course, people on either side can easily come up with a bunch of things with which they can trash the other side. We already know about all of that. But whenever the conversation comes around, I think most people say, I don't like the fact that we have this staunch two-party system where even if you are part of the third party, and you have the woman, Jill Stein, who I believe she's ran the last two elections, I believe it's the last two, where she's run on I believe her party is the Green Party, or whatever her party calls itself. That she's known, we know her name, but does she have any real chance of winning the election? No, she's not going to come close to winning the election. And people are like, we don't really have an option. If you can't get on the Democratic system or the Republican system, even if you have great ideas and you have some things that you want to do that don't quite, if you have some things you want to do that don't quite line up with the way that the entrenched Democrats or the entrenched Republicans want to do things, you really do not have a chance to actually be a serious candidate for president in the United States of America. And is this true? I would say, yes, it is. It's very true. Like people say to me, Dre, you should run for office. And then I am not seriously considering running for office. It's probably not going to happen. Pretty low chance that would ever happen. However, if I did, I wouldn't want to run as a Democrat or a Republican. And if I were to seriously consider running, I would probably have to choose Democrat or Republican. Why? Because they got all the power. If I'm really trying to win, let me add that in. If I'm really trying to win an election at the federal level, let's just even say at the state level. If I'm trying to win at the state level or I'm trying to win at the federal level, now maybe it's some local city council or something. I don't have to declare a party. Maybe I can win an election just off of grassroots. But if I'm trying to win, like, let's say the mayor of a city or anything state level in the anywhere in the United States or anything federal level, I probably have to pick a side. And the reason why I had to pick a side, because there's a certain amount of money that you need. And I looked this up not too long ago. There's a certain amount of money that you need in order to, let me see if I can find it, because I looked this up. And I want y'all to understand how this stuff really works. And where is it? No. Let me see if I can find donations. No. Maybe it's this one. Let me see. No, it's not that one. All right, let me look it up again. Tell me roughly how much money is necessary to win a political election in the United States at the city level for mayor, state level elections, and then at the federal level. Because this is the part that you all need to understand when it comes to picking a Democrat side or Republican side. Because if you're going to pick a side, usually you're spending other people's money. This is the part that many people, most of you understand that money is getting spent to win elections, and really spending money is how you win an election. If you want to win an election, you need money, and it's not your own money, because understand that Donald Trump, as he's noted for having a whole lot of money, he didn't spend his own money for his campaign. He spent somebody else's money. Now, where'd that money come from? That money came from the donors who are on one side politically, and as long as you are aligned with what they believe, then they'll give you money. And if you're not aligned with what they believe, then they won't give you money. And if you're not aligned, meaning you're not going with the Republican way of thinking or the Democrat way of thinking, then you can't get any donation money, which means you can't win. Even if you may have overall just objectively a better platform than your opponent's going to beat you simply because they can outspend you. And that's all. And politics in America is about spending money. That's really what it is. In case any of you didn't know, I think most of you understand it. So at the city level, you want to be a mayor, you want to join the city council. For a small city or town, you need anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. In a town that's anywhere from like 10 to 50,000 people, you need $10,000 to $100,000 to win the election. If you don't have that, you ain't winning. And again, a town of 10 to 50,000 people is a pretty relatively small town. A mid-sized town, mid-sized city, let's say about 100 to 500,000 people, you need between 100K and 500K. So basically, you need $1 for every person. That's pretty much what it's looking like. If it's 500,000 people in the town, you need $500,000. If it's 100,000 people in the town, you need $100,000. In a big city like Miami, like Atlanta, like Denver, a big city, you're going to need somewhere from $1 million to $10 million to win the election to be mayor. That's how much money you need. And that money is being donated. That's not your money. That's money that people are donating. And again, who donates money to you? People who donate the big money are people who want something in exchange for their money. People don't just give you something for nothing. They give you the money. Okay, in exchange for me giving you this money, Mr. Mayor candidate, then I'm expecting you to give me some favorable tax terms or some favorable new rules or policies when it comes to how the city is run, because my business is in the city, or I got these interests over here. And if you take my money, then I'm be knocking on your door after you win to get that favor back from you for the money that I gave you to help you win. This is the game. And this is the reason why Elon was mad, because Elon gave a bunch of money to help Trump win. And he felt like on some level, for some reason, that the money he donated to Trump, for whatever reason, he wasn't being recognized and paid back the way he expected to be paid back. That's why he got pissed off, and he can't go take the money back. He can't go take the election back. But he talked about that. I'm the reason that Trump won. He was going a little bit far with that. He was not the reason that Trump won. He contributed, but he wasn't the reason. But he was pissed off because, look, I put all this money behind you, President Trump, and here you are not giving me the thing that I expected to get in exchange. We don't know exactly what that thing was. There's been a lot of speculation, and I did a whole live stream about that about a week or two ago. But this is how it works. Someone gives you money, they're expecting to get something in exchange. Now, you get $1 million. Again, you may not get your $1 million from one person. Let's say you get a whole bunch of money from a whole bunch of different people. Everybody wants something from you. That's what happens when you win an election. You got to go and pay back, quote unquote, all these people who have given things to you. And this becomes a headache. And this has nothing to do with the actual job you're supposed to be doing. Notice that this has nothing to do with your job. What if there's something you want to do for the city, but there's somebody who donated money to you? They gave you $100,000. They want you to do something that actually goes against what the thing is you want to do for the city. Now you have this problem. This is where you get the stress. Again, the example that I've given you is Barack Obama. Look at him when he went into office, look at him when he came out of office. That's the stress of having these competing interests, both of which you kind of owe something to, and you're trying to figure out, okay, which one am I going to satisfy this time? We're at 15,000 likes, TikTok. Can we get up to 20,000, please? Please like the live. Let's get that 20,000 up. So a large city, again, you need $1 million to $10 million to win an election. At the state level, you want to be a representative, a governor, a senator, attorney general, etc. If you want to make the state or the House Assembly, depending on the size and the competitiveness of your district, this can vary greatly, anywhere from $50,000 to $1 million if you want to win. And again, it can vary based on where you live and the size of the district and how competitive it is to actually win the election. If you want to be a senator, you need anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million to win a Senate race. So Bernie Sanders, from him winning that Senate race, the oligarchy is contributing to him winning. Maybe not as much as other places, but to win the Senate, you need $2 million. You want to be governor, you need between $10 million and $100 million to win the election. Gavin Newsom, for example, in 2022, when he was reelected for governor of the state of California, anybody want to bet how much money his campaign raised? Put a number in the chat. How much money did Gavin Newsom raised to be reelected for governor in California in 2022? Put a number in the chat. How much money did Gavin Newsom raise for his campaign? Now, I kind of made this easy for you all because I just gave you some ballpark numbers. I should have asked this before I gave you the ballpark numbers. How much money y'all think he spent? So a bunch of y'all overshooting the number. Y'all are overshooting. Some said $1 billion. Now, it wasn't that much. I see 200 million, 150 million, 150 million, $1 billion, 20 million, 150 million. All right. Marky Man said 50 million. Marky Man hit it on the nose. It was a little over $50 million. $50 million Gavin Newsom spent to win governor re-election in the state of California. Where the hell is all that money going? That's the marketing. That's the advertisements. Those are the little signs that people put in the grass, the little stickers, the commercials, all that money. $50 million just to win the election. How many people you think Gavin Newsom has to please in order to get that $50 million? A whole bunch of people. That's what happens when you win an election. You want to be attorney general. It costs you anywhere from $2 million to $20 million. Again, money that you raise. At the federal level, House of Representatives, $1.5 to $5 million. All those representatives, $1.5 to $5 million to win an election. A senator, $10 to $100 million. And if the race is close, then it could usually be more than $100 million. So states like Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, it could be more than $100 million to win the election that needs to get raised. Do you understand these numbers? You want to be president, it costs you $1 billion. In 2020, according to research, both Trump and Biden spent $1 billion in 2020. And in 2024, that cycle exceeded it. They say Trump spent significantly less, but Kamala spent more. So this is all the money to get spent. I'm bringing all this up to say that when you are trying to win a political election, you need a whole bunch of people to give you money. So you need a bunch of people who are aligned with what your party is about. So if this new party in the middle, this America party that Elon proposed, he threw this concept out there. We got the 20,000 folks. Can we get the velocity of the likes up, please? On TikTok, the velocity of the likes, meaning we want them to happen faster. We want the same thing to happen, but we want it to happen faster. We're at 20,000. Can we get to 25 relatively quickly, folks? So if you want to get money, the people who give you money have to look at what your party is about, number one, align with it, number two, and believe you're actually going to win, number three. Because what if someone donates a bunch of money to your party and your campaign and you lose? But what they get for their money? They didn't get shit because you didn't win. So now you don't have any power to do anything. The only reason they gave you money because they are anticipating you're going to have the power to do something to help them out. But if you lose, all that money got spent and nothing came back. So this is like venture capitalism. All right, donating money to a politician who is running for office is like doing venture capital. You might make money, you might not. You're investing in something that might end up going to zero or something that may go to $1 billion. But you're not guaranteed to get your money back. Now, yes, you can write it off on your taxes, et cetera, but it's still money that got used up that you're not getting back. So that $1 billion+ that Kamala took in, all right, those people can't get anything back from that. I mean, again, they get the tax write-off, but they can't get anything from Kamala because she ain't got nothing. She has no power because she didn't win. So this is like speculating when you're giving money to a party. I'm bringing this up to say that if there's this America party, and let's say I decide to be the presidential candidate for the America party, the problem is who's going to donate money to me because they're not sure I'm even going to win. So it's like this whole system is so deeply entrenched, it makes it harder for the things to change simply because it hasn't changed. So it's like this circular issue that you have that there's not a simple fix. There is a fix, but it's not a simple fix. And it would require some short-term pain, in Donald Trump's words. Let's move on. Let's move on. 30,000 likes. We're at 25,000 TikToks. Let's get to 30,000. So this concept appeals to people who are more independent as far as their political alignment, people more centrist, and people who are politically disengaged, which is a lot of people. Because in American elections, I think the last election, find out how many people voted. How many voting eligible people voted in the last election, and what is the overall percentage based on how many are eligible to vote versus how many actually voted? So I think it's probably somewhere around 50%, but it might be a little bit higher than that. And I think with Trump around, I think more people got involved than in a normal election. So the last election, voting eligible population was 244 million people out of 350 million. So about 244 million were eligible to vote. Number of ballots cast was 156 million. 156 million ballots got cast. So the overall turnout was 64%. That's actually pretty strong. 2/3 of the country actually showed up to the election. And again, I think that 2/3 showed up because this was a very, this election got a lot of people's attention. Even people who don't pay attention to politics. The last one, 2024. So you had a black female, Kamala Harris, and you had Donald Trump running for the third time. And a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on MAGA, both positive and negative. I think this turnout is way higher than it will be in the next election. As far as registered citizens, this is different data. Registered citizens of voting age about 236 million, and 73% of them are registered to vote. That's about 175 million people, 174. 154 million got cast. The turnout for voting age citizens was about 65%. So, okay, pretty fair. About 2/3 of the country showed up to vote in the 2024 election. Again, I think Kamala and Trump, specifically both of them being involved, is what engaged a whole bunch of people. The next election, when it's probably going to be probably two white guys that are not Kamala, we know it won't be Kamala, that are not Donald Trump, I don't see that turnout being nearly as high. So the people who are politically disengaged might get engaged when there's a party that they can actually align with, where It's showing you something that you might actually believe, or at least more directionally what you believe. The issue is, even by then, we still only have three options, and you can't please everybody. This is the problem in politics. So it lacks any defined platform, values, or policy commitments yet, because it's not even a real thing yet. But let's say I was running this party. I will come up with a bunch of things. The problem is I still can't please everybody, even that people in the 80%, because now I'm trying to appease or even get the attention of 80% of voters, and 80% of people want a whole lot of different things. There are people on this end of the 80%, people on this end of the 80%. I can't satisfy everybody with whatever I'm going to come out with, but I have to make enough compromises to where I can get 80% of people to say, all right, we can possibly mess with this. It does offer an alternative to the two-party stranglehold on politics, which is a good idea. It's a step in the right direction. But again, there are structural barriers in all 50 states to even get on the ballot. Y'all remember RFK Jr. was trying to get on the ballot. He couldn't even get on the damn ballot in a lot of states in America. And he was trying to be, I believe he was trying to be on the Democratic side. It was hard for him to get on the ballot, because to get on the ballot, you have to have a certain amount of votes, and you got to get let me find out what are the exact requirements to actually get on the ballot during a federal election, let's say specifically for president. What are the things you have to have in place, or the things you have to do in order to be on the ballot so someone can vote for you? So let's find out exactly what it is. There's a bunch of requirements you got to hit, and if you don't hit the requirements, they won't even put you on the ballot, so you can't even win. So this is a first. I asked ChatGPT a question and said it can't guarantee accurate information about the requirements to get on the ballot for federal elections, including for president. I recommend checking with Federal Election Commission. This is the first time ChatGPT told me no. I've been using it for a while, and I use it pretty often. The first time it said I can't answer the question. So I guess it's probably been trained to stay away from politics. But anyway, there's a bunch of things you got to do. You got to have a certain amount of votes. You got to have a certain amount of delegates. You may have to have raised a certain amount of money. You have to have done a certain amount in the primary. You got to have a certain amount of people who would vote for you in a certain state for them to put you on the ballot in that state. So you could be on the ballot in Colorado, but not on the ballot in Nevada, based on these rules that they have in every state. And they have their own rules. And it becomes this whole tricky thing. And there's a whole lot of red tape and a whole lot of paperwork and a whole lot of money that they got to be spent. And it takes a whole lot of time to go through. And it seems like, especially those who get frustrated by the process, it may seem like the entire process is designed literally to keep you from getting on the fucking ballot, because they just want to keep it Democrat and Republican. And this is why a lot of people, Elon's not the first person with this idea, by the way. Any of you who are thinking that this is some brand new idea, this ain't new. Get the likes up on TikTok, folks. Let's get to 35,000 likes, please. Let's get to 35,000. We slow over here on TikTok. Let's get to 35,000 likes. This is not a new idea. Let's have another political party that can represent people who are neither on the left nor the right, and they want something that's kind of in between the two. The reason why this often doesn't work is what I've explained to you already, that the money is not there from the donors, and the process of actually getting on the ballot is so tedious, and there's so much red tape and so much bureaucracy you have to go through to even have a chance, that a lot of people have tried it and they said, oh, the hell with this. I might as well go back and do what I was already doing and serve people that way, because trying to serve people this way is fucking impossible. They're making it as hard as possible for me to actually get the job done. So there are structural barriers, and then we could just say that, and that encompasses everything I was just talking about. So there is public frustration with the polarization and political tribalism. And now, again, I know some of you may be strong on the left and some of you may be strong on the right, but there's a lot of people who, if there was an opportunity to not be one or the other, would probably be somewhere in the middle. I think most people are somewhere in the middle. Let me ask the question. Those of you, I know some of you, again, are avowed Democrats or avowed Republicans, or you love MAGA, or you like Trump, or you really don't like MAGA, or you really don't like Trump. If there was, so this is my question. My question is left, right, or middle. If there was an option for the middle, where would you be politically? Left, right, or middle? We know there is no middle option, but if there was an option, where would you be? So I just want you to put the comment, give me one word, left, right, or middle. If there was a middle option, would you be in the middle, or would you still be the left, or would you still be the right? So I'm seeing independent. Tall guy says I'm non-party affiliated. I'm seeing middle. Okay, Carla says right. Okay, and I see some middles. I'm seeing middle. I see right. Okay, so some of you are strong to the right. Okay, I'm seeing some strong rights. Okay, this is surprising. I wasn't expecting that. Middle, right, right. middle, leaning right, middle, right. I haven't heard anybody say left yet. Interestingly enough, now that may be just selection bias of this audience. Right leaning independent, right. I'm seeing a whole bunch of rights. Now, those of you who are saying the right, is your right based on Vivian said I voted Trump, but I'm independent? Okay, we got some right, we got some middle leaning right. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of middle leaning right, and a lot of people just saying straight up right. Is your right based on Trump, or is your right just based on the right period, even without Trump? Those of you who said the right. Those of you who are saying the right, is this a Trump related right, or is it just the right period, even without Trump? So if your right is based on Trump, put Trump. And if your right is just based on right, then it's just right. Okay, so I see a both. I see even without Trump. I see some Trump. I see conservative values with or without. I'm seeing some Trump right period, just based on belief, constitutional right, just right. Okay, so there's some strong rightness, strong right leaning, right, because we've been in the middle and that's how we got here. Okay, fair enough. MAGA 2025. Okay, well, that already happened. Right, even without Trump. Okay, interesting. I thought there'd be more people in the middle, but this is an interesting one. So I think, the way I'm looking at this, and again, you all, this is a small sample size of 150 million people who are voting, but I believe that a lot of people who have traditionally been on the political left, and people who have been raised on the left and they've always been on the left, I think a lot of those people would be very, very open to a switch to being in the middle. If there was an option for being in the middle, if there was an option for the middle, I think a lot of people on the political left would jump over to be in the middle if the option was made available. Why? Because the political left seems to have positioned itself, especially over the last 10 years, it's positioned itself as we are just the anti-Trump side. Now, the left has had things that it actually stood for. In Obama years, the left stood for certain things. And the left still stands for things, but the left has positioned itself, and its leaders, their mouthpieces, have positioned itself so strongly to just go against anything that Trump says that it starts to make them look ridiculous. So I'm saying that to say that a lot of people who I think would choose the middle are people who have traditionally been on the left. So it sounds like a lot of you have traditionally been on the right. But if I was talking to a room full of people who have traditionally been on the left, they would gladly choose the middle. But a lot of them have been so conditioned subconsciously they can't possibly choose the right, because the right has been successfully by the left, has been successfully stained as if you're on the right. That means you are supporting old white men and rich people and the settlers of America and people who have traditionally abused marginalized and minority groups. And if you're part of a marginalized or minority group, then there's no way you can support the political right. The left has done a good job of establishing that framework in the minds of a lot of voters, a lot of politically left voters. So I think a lot of those people on the left, they can't go to the right, even though they kind of want to, but they can't. They can't see themselves doing it. So the middle option would be a safety valve for a lot of people on the left. I think a lot of people on the right, and those of you who are on the right, a bunch of you said this, you tell me if I got this right or not, no pun intended, is that a lot of people on the right, Donald Trump, yes, he may have been an exaggerated version of what the political right is, but he's not super different than what the political right has traditionally been about, because the right is about conservative values. I mean, that's what the right has been, conservative, is that we have certain traditions, certain standards, certain rules, certain ways of living that we want to uphold. And Donald Trump is coming along, and yes, he has some different ways of saying it, different ways of languaging it, but Donald Trump has pretty much gone along with that. And Donald Trump seems to he has a pretty conservative personality, I would say. I mean, people probably don't think that, but conservative meaning the way the political leanings of conservatism are, I think Donald Trump pretty much matches that. Now, again, Donald Trump got a lot of people excited in ways that they otherwise wouldn't have been excited when it comes to politics. But Donald Trump was well liked by people on the left, even though he had a lot of money, even though he's a white man, a rich white man, allegedly. A lot of people on the left liked him a lot until he got into politics. Well, first, because he started attacking Obama. So a lot of people say, you can't attack Obama. You're an old white man. Barack Obama's a young black guy. You can't attack Obama. He's the first black president. You can't attack him. And Donald Trump started going at Obama because Donald Trump sometimes he picks fights. I think we can agree to that. And got a lot of people excited for whatever reason, positively or negatively. But the conservative views, and this is the point that I was trying to make to juxtapose with the left, the political right has not shifted that much. And as a matter of fact, I mean, all of you have seen the graph. The left used to be here, the right was over here, or the right was here, the left was here, and the middle was right here. But things that the Overton window has shifted so far to the left, the people who used to be in the middle are now considered conservative just because you're in the middle. So this is the reason why someone like myself, I have no political affiliation. I consider myself to be more in the middle, or what some people call a centrist, because I can see some things on the left that say, okay, that makes sense. I can see some things on the right. I can say that makes sense. But the Overton window has shifted so far to the left. I have not shifted with it. So if I stand here in the middle with the same ideas that I had in 2010 that would have been in the middle, now in 2025, those same ideas, people are looking at you and saying, oh, well, you must be a MAGA supporter. You must have voted for Trump. I'm like, what are you talking about? I got the same views now that I had in 2010. What's changed? I didn't change. Well, I have changed, but not that much. What's changed is that the line has moved so far to the left that if you don't go with them, then they consider you against them. And this is a problem. You can't do this. You can't put people in that position like, hey, we're jumping all the way over here, and if you don't come with us, then you're no longer part of our group. Well, what's happened is, and we saw this happen in the 2024 election, a lot of people said, okay, you're telling me if I don't go with you over there to where I can't define what a woman is, like Ketanji Brown Jackson, or if I don't go all the way over there and say that little Mikey can become little Michelle overnight, if I don't go all the way over there and say, hey, we should allow people who are in this country without documentation to stay here just because, not because you have any logical reason to, but just because Donald Trump said they should go, we're supposed to say they should say, okay, you are becoming a little bit too reactive. You're becoming a little bit too extreme, and you're going a little bit too far with these things. I'm not going that far with you. I'm going to stay right here where I was. And now you're saying to me, okay, if you don't go with me, then that must mean you're on the right. If you're not with us, you're against us. So you want to polarize that way? Okay. And we saw what happened in the 2024 election. That's what happened. What happened in the 2024 election is that the political left went so far to the left that they left, pun intended, a lot of people who have been on their side behind. They put a lot of people who have been on the left, and they so polarized themselves that some people who have always been on the left said, look, I'm with you, but are you doing a little bit too much right now? You're going a little bit too far. Like, I was with you when we were doing it this much, but now you want to do it this much and this much and this much. That's a little bit too much for me. I can't go that far. And you said, well, if you don't want to go that far with me, then hey, you gotta stay over there. You're not my friend anymore. It's like Juice, the movie. You remember the movie Juice with Tupac? Some of you remember that movie. In the movie Juice with Tupac, it was Tupac and a couple of his young friends. They would go around the neighborhood kind of doing little crimes and robbing people and robbing stores and stuff. And it was all good for a while. But then Tupac was like the one who went a little bit too far. He said, oh, let's go do this, let's do that. And he started overreacting to stuff. And eventually his friends were looking at him like, yo, Tupac, you doing, his name wasn't Tupac, his name was Bishop in the movie. You were going a little bit too far. He didn't say that in so many words, but he went so far that eventually he kind of alienated his friends. His friends start dying, and Tupac ends up falling off a building and getting let go off the edge of a building because he went a little bit too far. That's what the political left did. They were like Tupac and Juice. You did a little bit too much. I was with you until you did that. I was with you until you couldn't tell me what a woman is. I was with you until you started saying that a boy playing in girls' sports, you started calling that a grift. How is it a grift to say that a boy can't play in a girls' sporting event? That's a grift. So I'm just doing some kind of scam to make money. It's a grift to say that a boy shouldn't play in a girls' sport. See, when the left started going that far, that's when they started losing people. And you see, there's a whole lot of people out here who I call these people sellouts. They call themselves journalists. Many of them are not journalists. They are going along with this nonsense because they get paid by it. And they otherwise couldn't have a career if they didn't do it. And that's what happens with a lot of these sellouts that you see in the in the media space. Let's keep the likes up, folks. Let's get up to 50,000 likes. So what could happen is the moderate vote could be split, and it could help extremes consolidate power, possibly. Some say if you put this middle party in there, it'll get, of course, some people are going to vote for the middle party. And this is what people say about voting for Jill Stein. If you voted for Jill Stein, and that means you kind of voted for Trump. And that's the reason why Trump's in, and I'm mad at you for voting for Trump. So if you have this middle party, it could pull a bunch of people from one side or the other side and make it easier for that other polarized side to win. I think a lot of people on the political left would probably think this. And this is what I just explained. that if this middle America party came to exist, I think it would pull more people from the left into the middle than it will pull people from the right into the middle. That's what would happen. And if it pulled more people from the left than it pulled from the right, but the right still has the power, then that would make it easier for the right to win. Therefore, what would happen before this even occurred is that the political left will try really, really hard to stop this middle party from existing because they can read the tea leaves. They can read the writing on the wall. Let's get the likes up over on TikTok, though, folks. They can read the writing on the wall that if there's this party in the middle, there's this America party, that a bunch of people on the left are now going to vote for the middle. That means the left gets fewer votes, but the people on the right are going to stay on the right, which means the right ends up winning the election because the middle is not going to win. Maybe not, at least not initially. So the left is going to say, okay, fuck that. We can't let this happen. So they're going to do everything they can to block it. And you know how you block things in America? You block it through process and paperwork and bureaucracy and the courts. And you know how you end up doing that is you got to have lawyers. And you know how you get lawyers to go to work for you? You pay them money. And you know where you get money from? From the coffers of people who are donating to your party. You know who has a whole lot of money? The political left. And this is the reason why this couldn't actually happen as simply as I'm talking about it. Because all they would do is block it. They would do everything they can to stop it from happening. So what happens is, if this were to occur, if this new party were even to start trying, let's say Elon was in charge of it. I mean, he got money, right? It could split. It would bring fresh voices, and outsider thinking to the national discourse. Now, again, if Elon called me and said, Dre, I want you to be the first candidate for this America party, I could bring some fresh ideas and some fresh thoughts and some new discourse into the political conversation. I could absolutely do that. And at the same time, again, the voter focus without real leadership or accountability, I think is a problem anymore, because now the person is standing up saying, this is who we are. Here's the candidate. Here's what we're about. We're going to do this, this, and this. This could build a more modern campaign model from scratch. The issue is, again, folks, we're talking about the government. We've been talking about this over and over again for the last, we've been talking about this all the time. Damn near every other day we're talking about something that has to do with the government. And what is the biggest issue with the government? The government is extremely slow. It's extremely bureaucratic. There's a lot of red tape. And there's a lot of established people in there who do not want the establishment disturbed because their careers are tied to that establishment. They don't have any other professional skill. So without the government, they are nothing and nobody. They're not going to sit there and let some tech entrepreneur like Elon Musk or some dude who was doing live streams on YouTube and TikTok like me come in there and just throw them out of their jobs that easily. They're going to fight. And this is where it becomes an issue. This is where you get the red tape. This is where all the problems come in. And it's the reason why it doesn't change. The reason why our political model has not changed, even though people have been bitching and chirping about this for 40 years, is because of what I just said. There's a bunch of people in the establishment who do not want the establishment unestablished. They don't want it disturbed. So it risks, some people say, well, this is another cult of personality movement. They're only doing it because it's Elon, and Elon won't always be around, or Dre won't always be around, or what's this party actually about? What's their identity? What are their foundations? Because the Democrats have a foundation, Republicans have a foundation, because regardless of the candidate, they still have a clear line of thinking and a line of reasoning as to what side is about. So those of you who said you're on the right with or without Trump, again, that right is not about a person. All right, the right is a way of looking at things. So what would this middle party be about? That question must be answered. So this pushes these legacy parties to compete harder for the center, which will be a good thing, because now both sides can't be so extreme. I think, again, that would be more magnetizing for the left than it would be for the right. I don't think the political right has gotten really extreme. I think the political right has always been what they've been about. In the early 90s, I asked my mother, because my parents would always vote in every election, and there was a polling place right across the street from our house. Every election, they would always vote. They could come home from work, long day of work, tired. They would always make sure to vote. I think they saw it as a moral obligation to participate in the elections. And I remember I asked my mom one time, are we Democrats or Republicans? And my mom said Democrats. And I said, why? And when I say we, I'm just talking about our family. So I'm assuming that my parents both voted the same way. And I said, why? And she paused for a second to think about it. Her answer was because the Republicans only work for rich people. Now, I think the people who vote Democrat still, well, we know they still think that now because we hear Bernie Sanders and his understudy AOC going around saying this. But that was in the 90s. So how long ago was that? 30-some years ago. They've been saying the same thing. The political left has always been saying that about the people on the right. And they have told black people specifically that the Republicans are for the white people and that the Democrats are for the black people. And they got a lot of black people pledging fealty to the Democrats. It was like 96% of black females voted for Kamala in the last election. And with males, the number dropped, but it was still the majority. I think the number in the last election was like 76% of black males who did voted for Kamala Harris. So even the 25% who voted for Trump or someone else, it's still 76% still voted for Kamala. And Kamala was a very weak candidate. And had Kamala been white, I think the number would have been way lower. I think she got what she got because she was, let's just say she's brown. So there is no history of third-party success at scale in the United States of America. That's the reason why this is a radical idea, because it's been tried and it's never worked. My belief, and I've talked about this before, for our political system as it currently stands to be disrupted, there must be some form of anarchy and there will be temporary disorder in order for it to occur. I don't think this is going to occur in a clean way. I don't see a clean path from what we've had to I don't see a clean path from what we've had politically to what we're proposing here. It's not going to be clean. There is a path, but it won't be clean. I mean, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some disrupt. There's going to be some tumult. There's going to be maybe some heads are going to roll in order for this to occur. But, for it to occur, it's going to take somebody with a lot of audience, someone who can galvanize a bunch of people, and it's going to take enough people upset with both sides politically, and someone who can articulate why you don't like the left and why you don't like the right. Because right now, people can tell you why they don't like one or the other, but can anybody tell you why they don't like either one? There are a few people who are willing to say it out loud, but a lot of people have picked a side because we've been stuck with this binary for so long. So this will take a lot of resources, energy, attention, time, money, focus, a whole lot of everything. And it's going to require some disruption. We had to disrupt the whole system in order for this to occur. Now, this could alienate serious political thinkers who see it as unserious. I'm not quite sure that's true. I think you can find some people who are definitely in the middle if they see that there's somewhere to go. If there's something tangible in the middle, I think it's possible. And it also encourages discussion about ranked choice voting and electoral reform. So this is what they did in New York. So y'all saw this guy in New York who won the election. Well, he didn't win. He won the nomination yesterday, and it's pretty much accepted that he won. He beat, what's our guy's name, who was the governor? Cuomo. Cuomo loses. What's the guy's name who won in New York yesterday? I saw it on X. Let me see if I can get his name. Mamdani. He won the NYC mayoral primary, and he has eyes on city policies and international stance. So this guy's name, Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani. He's 33 years old. He's a state assemblyman from Queens. He won the Democratic primary for New York City, defeating Andrew Cuomo. Well, it's good that he defeated Cuomo, but at the same time, his campaign is focused on things like this guy looks like he's a socialist. I think it's fair to call this guy a socialist. Is that fair? Anybody in New York who followed this? Is it fair to call this man a socialist? This guy, Zohran Mamdani, who might be you all's next mayor? Because what I've heard about New York is that if you win the Democratic primary, you pretty much won the vote. Is that how it works in New York? I'm asking two questions here. Number one, can we call this guy a socialist? And number two, if you win the Democratic primary, does it pretty much mean you won the election? So it looks like Eric Adams is getting voted out. So Eric Adams, they said Eric Adams is going to run as an independent. Now he's not going to win. So I guess it's a wrap for Eric Adams. Shout out to Eric Adams. It's a wrap for him. So a lot of people saying that he is a socialist. Demystify said, why do I think he's a socialist? I didn't say that. I said, is it fair to call him a socialist? But I've heard many people call this guy a socialist. He might call himself a socialist based on the things that I'm seeing here. His campaign focused on issues like affordability and social justice. The affordability part, okay. Social justice, I'm skeptical as soon as I see that term. Social justice is a very, very subjective term. Mamdani, he identifies himself as a democratic socialist. So the person asking, why do you call him a socialist? He calls himself a socialist. He literally calls himself a democratic socialist. Okay, so that's why we're calling him a socialist. So we're calling him what he calls himself. He also stirred controversy with remarks about potentially arresting. This guy has claimed he might arrest. Actually, I saw this clip. This guy who just won the primary in New York. So can somebody tell me, is it true if you win the Democratic primary, that means you pretty much won in New York? Is that true? Anybody know anything about New York primaries? Is that pretty much the case? Give me a yes or a no here. If you win the Democratic primary in New York, does that pretty much mean it's over? You won? Because the Republicans ain't winning? Let's get the likes up, please, on TikTok. Let's get to 60,000 likes. Okay, so people are saying yes. You win the Democratic primary is over. Okay, that's what I heard in the past. So somebody said no. Big Boy said no. When's the last time? Well, was Giuliani? Giuliani was Republican, right? Wasn't Rudy? But when was Giuliani? That was like the 90s. So, okay, anyway, let's continue. His campaign focused on, oh no, back here. He said, I saw this clip. He said that he would arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he visited New York. And this has raised, of course, legal and international concern and conversation. And then some people are talking like this guy is Zoran Mamdani. Mamdani. If he wins, I'll learn how to pronounce his name smoothly. He's a Muslim. So people are juxtaposing like, hey, 2001, you had this issue called 9/11. And now you got a Muslim being elected. And some people have some other things to say about him. But there's a whole conversation about this guy. We may end up talking about this. I don't even live in New York. I've never lived in New York. I love New York. Know a lot of people in and from New York. But we might end up doing a whole lot just talking about this guy alone, if it becomes clear that he might win. Because I was hearing I think I was on the Megyn Kelly show the other day, where someone was on there saying that there's another path for both him and Cuomo to have still run for the main election, even if they lose today. Since Cuomo lost yesterday, he has another route, another path where he can still run for the election in the general election for the mayoral victory. There's another path for him, but he's probably not going to win. So let's see if we can find out what the stats were. What was the percentage of votes that he got? Does anybody know the answer to that? How many votes this guy got? And AOC congratulated him. So AOC is a fan of Zoran Mamdani. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What do y'all think? Good or bad that AOC is a fan? AOC congratulated him. She said, your dedication to an affordable, welcoming, and safe New York City where working families can have a shot has inspired people across the city. Billionaires and lobbyists poured millions against you and our public finance system, and you won. How do y'all feel about that? Good or bad that AOC is a fan? All right, so a bunch of you are saying bad. It's bad that AOC is a fan? Well, she's a fan. So what they did in New York, they did this ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting is when you say, instead of just picking one person, you say, I want this person, number one, number two, number three. And that way you can count the votes of how you get points for coming in second, you get points for coming in third. And it just gives you a better picture of who won versus who didn't win, rather than just having a binary black and white option. So according to this, the NYC Democratic primary, 90% reported. These are the stats. So it's not like it was a blowout. He won pretty handily, Mamdani, but he got 44% of the vote. Cuomo got 36%, and the guy named Brad Lander, who I don't know, he got 11%. So he's out. But Cuomo got 36%. So it's not like he did nothing. And Mamdani got 44%. So he still beat him pretty solidly. He beat him by about 70,000 votes. He beat him by 70,000 votes. I don't know. What does this mean for New York? And a bunch of people are saying, New York, y'all are idiots. Y'all voted for this guy, and he's a socialist. I'm going to follow this guy so we see what this guy's talking about. But I'm going to, so he, NYC Assembly member running for mayor this is what he says he's going to do. This is on his X profile, or his X account. Read it straight from his X. Running for mayor to freeze the rent, make buses fast and free. He's going to make buses free. He's going to deliver free universal childcare. And he literally says right here in his profile on X, Democratic Socialist. Right there, Democratic Socialist. I don't know about this one. He's from Astoria, Queens. I don't know about this one. Democratic Socialist. They said, Candy said the young people voted for him. Yeah, it sounds like it. He calls himself a Democratic Socialist. I'm skeptical of that term. Let's see what ChatGPT tells me that means. This guy who just won the primary for mayor in New York calls himself a Democratic Socialist. How would you define that term? And what does it mean? Democratic Socialist. So this guy's kind of, I don't know, is he dipping his toe in two pools at the same time? Maybe not really. But let's see if we can get a definition of a Democratic Socialist. So Democratic socialism is a left-wing political philosophy. So, okay, I guess it's the same thing. Left-wing political philosophy that combines democracy with socialist economic principles. I don't know about this one, yo. I don't know about this one, New Yorkers. We got any New Yorkers in here? I don't know about this one. Socialist economic principles aiming to give ordinary people control over both their political systems and over the economy. I don't like that idea. I don't like this. I don't like this sentence. Here's what it supports: a political democratic system. Okay, I'm fine with a political democratic system. I mean, is that right? Politically democratic system. Free elections. We already got free elections. Civil liberties. We already have those. And voting rights. We already got those. Okay, so far so good. Okay. A move towards social ownership. I do not like this. This one I don't like. Social ownership means this: worker cooperatives, publicly owned enterprises. No, no, no. Not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of publicly owned enterprises. That means the government's in charge or the masses of people are in charge as a group. No, not a fan. Or very strong regulations with an end goal of reducing or dismantling capitalism. No, no, no. This is Amy Winehouse. No, no, no. No, no, no. So this guy, Zoran Mamdani, this man wants to end capitalism or dismantle. He wants to dismantle capitalism in New York City. No, no, no. This is not a good idea. This is not a good idea at all. Dismantling capitalism in New York City. New York City makes a lot of money from tourism, from just all the businesses there. The city never sleeps. One thing I love about New York, you could be outside in New York at 3:30 in the morning and there's a whole bunch of businesses wide open, people walking in and out. The people in there are not falling asleep. They're up working. That's the thing I love about New York. The city never sleeps, but those are businesses. And he wants to put an end to capitalism in the city of New York. What? Well, first of all, he's probably not going to be able to do that. I mean, but the fact that two things. The fact that he even is thinking about trying, number one, that he announced it sounds crazy. And the fact that he just won a primary election after announcing it is even crazier. New York City, y'all voted for this. What are y'all doing? We got any New Yorkers in here. What are y'all doing? And so a bunch of you are saying that Donnie said we love it. We need more politicians like him. I don't know about that one, Donnie. It sounds good in theory. In theory, it sounds good. Let's get rid of capitalism because the people who are the everyday ordinary person, quote unquote ordinary, they feel like they don't have a chance to compete because the capitalists are making all the money and taking all the money off the table. I get it in theory, and your emotions and in your feelings, like the Drake song "In My Feelings." I get it, but you need to think about what that actually looks like. What it actually looks like is that the government is running things. They have more say than the everyday capitalists. Here's the thing about capitalism, folks. Capitalism promotes entrepreneurship. And when you get entrepreneurs, you get people who are incentivized in a real way to produce quality results for their customers and clients. Why are we incentivized? Because if you don't produce quality results for your customers and clients, then you have no customers or clients, meaning there is no money, meaning you go out of business. We are incentivized to perform. It's a performance mandate and a results producing mandate when you have capitalism. Now, yes, can capitalism stretch far to where people are not only producing results, but they're getting so much in terms of returns that it seems like they have it seems like, or they actually can have way more than everybody else? Yes, but that doesn't mean they're taking any money out of your pocket. This is the false idea that gets sold to a bunch of people when it comes to capitalism, that Elon Musk, having his whatever amount of billions of dollars that he has, somehow, some way is precluding the everyday person from making $1,000 or $1 million or $1 billion yourself. They are completely unrelated. Elon Musk making $1 billion today has no bearing on how much money you can make tomorrow. Zero. But many politicians, and it seems like Mr. Mamdani have worked their way into believing that this must be true. The more money this person has, that's the reason why you don't have as much money. You don't have as much money because they have so much. And this is an emotional argument. Logically, there's no way you can make that make sense logically. There's no logical way to make sense of Jeff Bezos has $10 billion. That's the reason why I can't get a raise at my job. They have nothing to do with each other. Zero. But politicians have emotionally created this connection that people have bought and have accepted. And now people are building arguments based on false beliefs The foundation is false, but then they build arguments on top of it. And this is how you get Bernie Sanders and AOC going on a national tour talking about fighting the oligarchy as if that has anything to do with the people who are showing up to their rallies. It has nothing to do with you. You're making $60,000 a year at your job. How much Elon Musk makes or has, or anything that he does, has no bearing on you being able to get a raise to $65,000 a year. Nothing. But people have bought into this. So this whole concept of capitalism, quote unquote, not working. Capitalism absolutely works. It depends on how you define working. What do you mean by working? He also wants to have a gradual democratic transition, working within existing political structures rather than revolution. Okay, that one's not a bad idea, depending on what you mean. Now, what is democratic socialism versus social democracy? So now you got all these language games here. Democratic socialist wants to replace capitalism with a socialist economy based on social ownership, meaning the whole group owns something rather than one person owning it. I say no. You need to read some Ayn Rand. You need to read Atlas Shrugged if you want to understand what happens when you disincentivize capitalists. When you take away the incentive for capitalists to do capitalism, you get less innovation, less building, less entrepreneurship, you don't have a free market, and you don't have people who are incentivized to go and create new things and solve problems. You get bigger problems. So is capitalism perfect? No, nothing is perfect that is touched by a human being, because human beings are imperfect by nature. But capitalism, even with its warts, is better than socialism, where everything is owned by the people, for one basic reason. One reason is that capitalism encourages entrepreneurship and innovation, meaning people who have great ideas and they know how to implement those ideas, they are incentivized to get those ideas implemented and get them into the hands of the people who need it. When you take that incentive away, then your innovation falls apart, because who's going to innovate if I don't get an outsized return from my outsized results? If you're not going to give me extra for doing extra, I'm going to stop doing extra. That's the way it works. This is the reason why salespeople get paid on commission, because the more you sell, the more money you make. Now, if you give me a flat salary, even though I'm outselling everybody else in the office and my salary isn't any higher than anybody else's in here, I'm eventually going to quit, or I'm just going to stop producing. Why? Because I have no incentive to produce. Human beings respond to incentives. Capitalism gives an incentive to produce results. So this whole concept of socialism, I'm not a fan. So Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist. So no wonder AOC likes Mr. Mamdani. All right, makes perfect sense now. Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist. He wants Nordic style programs like Medicare for all, tuition free college, but he doesn't want to fully socialize all industries. These things, again, they sound great. Bernie Sanders came to my town and said, hey, I want all your kids to go to college for free. I would say that sounds like a great idea, Senator Sanders. Now, how the hell are we going to do that? Because look how much college costs now. Look at all the people who work at colleges. Look how much money all of them make. All right, how are we going to pay for it? Because those people still got to get paid. Who's paying for it? The government? How are you going to figure that one out? So it sounds good on paper. So those of you who are fans of this concept, I understand on paper it sounds amazing, but how are you actually going to do it? It's like the mice deciding to put a bell around the cat's neck. Sounds good till one of the mice got to actually put the bell around the cat's neck. Now it's a whole different story. So Zoran Mamdani, he calls himself a democratic socialist. He prioritizes, we already talked about these things. He works within the Democratic Party. He doesn't want a separate party. And yeah, I think I said enough about this guy. Mr. Mamdani. All right, good luck, New York. That's what I'll say to y'all. Good luck, New York. on this one right here, is that you're going to have this Mr. Mamdani. He's going to try to institute socialism in New York. Now, first of all, he's probably not going to succeed. He can try. He'll do a few things that may generate some buzz. Is not going to succeed, but the fact that he got elected is telling me that the pendulum is starting to swing in a certain direction. So he's walking so the next candidate can run. So let's just say he stays mayor for however long he stays mayor. Let's say he gets 2 terms. He's mayor, or as many terms you can have. How many terms can you have in New York City? Let's find out. How long is the mayoral term in New York City, and how many times can one person be mayor in concurrent terms? I think it might be 2 in the 6 years. That's just a guess. I've never lived in New York City, but let's see. So it's 2. I see somebody saying 2. Mayoral term is only 4 years. Okay. And you could do 2 4-year terms, 8 years back to back. After 2 terms, they must step aside for at least 1 full term before becoming eligible again. Oh, so you can just do it again. So I guess you could be mayor for your whole life. You just got to take 4 years off after every 8-year term. So it's 4 years, you get 2 consecutive terms. Okay, similar to the president. So let's say he gets 8 years as mayor. He's going to try some things. Most of them are not going to work, but he's going to plant the seeds. And the next mayor who comes after him, if they're similar to him, they can actually start making this stuff happen. That's how it works. So he's just coming in to plant the seed. So he is crawling so the next person can walk. Let's get into the comments here, folks. Let's see what we got. Joe Byron said, why are Democrats always listed at the top of the ballot? I don't know. Maybe because D comes before R in the dictionary. Candy said Cuomo will re-enter as an independent. Yeah, I knew it was another path for him. So he's just going to run as an independent, and he can now triple down on whatever he needs to because now he knows how far behind he is. So this is not over, but I don't think Cuomo's going to win. I don't think he's going to win. I think this guy's probably going to become Yoel's next mayor. Candy said, I live in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Brooklyn. I heard the price of Brooklyn went up. Brooklyn got gentrified. And I like Brooklyn, but I don't like the weather of New York. Let's see. I think Adams has a chance due to name recognition. Maybe. What party is he running with? What party is Adams even running with? Serenity and Love said, yes, he should. Divine Nonchalant said he's wonderful. Okay. I mean, I think people like something new. He is new. That I can give you. Strategic said, this means you win the nominee for your party. Well, strategic, yes, logically, I know that part. But what I'm saying is, in the big picture in New York, it looks like if you win the Democratic nomination, you're pretty much going to become the mayor because there's not enough Republican voters in New York for you to win as a Republican. That's what I'm asking. Big Blue said he doesn't have the jurisdiction to arrest Netanyahu. Yeah, he probably doesn't. He's throwing it out there as a way of getting people excited. That's the whole point. Vivian said he wants to defund the police. Yeah, New York, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, folks. We're at 73,000. Let's get to 75,000, folks, please. Carlos said Mandami is pushing against Israel, so the Jewish community is not going to vote for him. Well, is that going to be enough for him to not win? That's the question. Renting Palm Beach says South Florida is the sixth borough. Yeah, there's a lot of New Yorkers now here. There's a lot of New Yorkers in South Florida. Maestro said you need 50% to win outright. Yes, I did hear that. So he got 44%. So he didn't win outright. So this is not over, but I don't know. So people are saying it's bad that AOC is a fan. Yeah, so we'll see where this goes. When is the general election in New York? So XTR said bad for the U.S. if AOC likes him. Well, she does like him, so I guess it's bad for the U.S. Dolphin said birds of a feather, she's just like him. Yeah, it sounds like it. Why didn't AOC run for mayor? Why is she messing around in the government, the federal government? She might as well just ran for mayor. She probably could have won. Manny said AOC equals bag of rocks. Well, some people are aligned with that bag of rocks. Serenity said Cuomo is the old guard. He needs to go get the elderly out of politics. Well, he just lost this one, but it might not be over yet. He lost the battle, but he's not going to stop fighting. He already got all that donor money, so he might as well keep trying. Candy said the young people voted for Mr. Mamdani. I can believe that. He's young. He's only 33, so I get it. Zoran wants to freeze affordable housing, and he wants to offer the bus for free. I don't mind the bus being free. I mean, it's still going to cost the city money because somebody got to pay for that stuff. Where's all this money going to come from that this guy's trying to give these things away? Where's the money coming from? That's the part that I don't know if anybody asked him on the campaign trail. Prima said he's going to drain all the tax dollars. Oh, there it is. There's the answer right there. Right after that. Carlos said we need some Trump rallies in NY with Holman as special guests. Yeah, they're going to get booed off the stage. Monica said on whose dime? Why would anybody vote for that? Well, on our dime. Whose dime do you think, Monica? We just found that out. On your dime. That's who he's going to do it on. He's going to do it on your dime. He has all these great ideas, and you're going to pay for it, and you're going to vote for it and love it. That's it. Baby Love said Trump says a lot too, and y'all voted for him. I don't know who you're referring to by y'all, but the whole country voted for Trump. That's why he's president. Even if you didn't vote for him, you voted for him. And Donald Trump's pretty much doing what he said he was going to do. Candy said the young people voted for their immediate needs. Fair enough. And that works in politics. It's actually a good idea. Clay Dobson says, it's funny how people have become convinced socialism is a bad thing. I didn't become convinced. I am convinced that socialism is a bad thing compared to capitalism. Socialism on paper can sound like a swell enough idea. Compared to capitalism, it's not a good idea. And I'll just explain to you why. Because it disincentivizes innovation and entrepreneurship. And I'm an entrepreneur. They often said, free, 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 all taxpayers' money. Yes, that's pretty much what's going to happen. Carlin said, Republicans need to swarm New York. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. That ain't happening. He can't do anything that what he's planning to do as mayor. He can now as an assemblyman, Maestro says. Okay, makes sense. But that's how he built up some momentum. Carl Candy said, affordable housing hooked his voters. I can understand why it did. Now, let's see if he actually does it. Now, that's all. Saying it is one thing, doing it is another. Well, Heck said New York will be a test if he wins. Yeah, New York's a hell of a test. Biggest city in the country. It's a hell of a test. He's going to undermine the Constitution with policies. Well, he's going to try. Sounds like he's going to try. Candy said the young people didn't read that far. They probably didn't. Missy said, I'm late to the party. Who are you talking about? I live in upstate New York. We're talking about Zoran Mamdani. Zoran, what's this on this page? Where is it? Zoran Kwame Mamdani. This guy right here. This is the guy we're talking about. Zoran Kwame Mamdani. Just last night, he won the initial primary vote in New York City. Now, he didn't get 50% of the vote, so it's not completely over yet. But there's a very strong showing by Mr. Zoran. He's a New York State Assembly member, and he's running for mayor to freeze rent. So that means if you own a home that you rent out, you can't raise the rent. He wants to make buses fast and free. I don't know how you're going to make a bus any faster than it is, but this is what he's claiming. And he wants to deliver free universal child care. Again, I don't know how he's going to do that because the people who work there still got to get paid. He is a democratic socialist. His words, democratic socialist. So we're talking about this guy. So it is looking like, who asked that question? I think it was Missy who asked that question. He is going to be the next mayor of New York City. That's what we're talking about. Donnie said his policies are crap, but he seems cool or whatever. Yeah, that's all you need to win an election, Donnie. Did you see Barack Obama? That's how Obama won. His policies were not great. Most people didn't care about his policies because he seemed like a cool guy. He was young, he was cool, he was new, he seemed hip, and that's why he won 2 elections. Chick said worker representation on company board is a must. Anybody against it is an absolute no. Okay, there's a conversation to be had there. I get it. Vivian said communism is coming to New York. I hope not. I like New York. Renee said, doesn't this make Adams a shoo-in? I don't know about that. Somebody in New York, you tell me. What do y'all feel about Eric Adams? Does he have a chance? Does Eric Adams have a chance to win? I'm reading the comments from the top, by the way, folks. So any of you leaving comments and I'm not reading your comment, I'm not ignoring you. I'm reading from the oldest to the newest. Tall guy said, that's an example of a violent pendulum swing, also bad for New York. Well, this is what they wanted. New York, this is what y'all wanted. So any of you who lives in New York, this is what you want. So y'all getting exactly what you wanted. But Heck said New York deserves what they vote for. Exactly. That's right. Same thing I say about America. If people are mad about Trump, we voted for Trump. If you're mad about this guy, Mamdani, y'all voted for this guy. Well, at least so far. So far. Traditional all day said, am I the only one tapping? I don't think so. We got 79,000. Can we get to 80,000, folks? We're at 79. We're going slow here. Get the likes up. Please get the likes up on TikTok. Please tap the screen. Excuse me, as much as you can. Let's get to 85,000 likes. Carla said he should lose. The bankers aren't going for that. Well, we'll see. Donnie said we need more politicians like Mamdani. Interesting. All right, so some of you are happy about this guy. Big Boy said capitalism isn't working. Well, Big Boy, capitalism is always working. It depends on what you mean by working. Capitalism is always working. It's just a matter of what side of the equation are you on. The thing about capitalism, also compared to socialism is designed to give everybody it's designed to try to create some level of equality amongst everybody. Whereas capitalism it's the free market. We're opening it up, and whoever's the best is going to win. And if you're not good, you're going to lose. That's what capitalism is. And my background is in professional sports. In the sports world, that's how it works. And that's the game that I like. I like to be in a game where it's just about if you're good, you win. If you're bad, you lose. And socialism is more about we want everybody to have a chance or be somewhat equal to each other, no matter how good or bad you are. I'm not a fan. And free market people who can perform don't want to be in a system like that, because your ability to perform is diminished. It's not diminished. It's this it's discouraged, and is not what's the word? Is not rewarded. Your performance is not rewarded. Again, it's like working at a sales job where everybody's on commission and you're the top salesperson, so you're making the most money. Then they change it to a flat salary. Well, I'm going to stop selling because I'm not making money for selling. Why would I do that? Jason said, this is a vote against the establishment. Cuomo is corrupt. I agree with both of those points. Yes, I agree with both of those points. Prima said, broken slave minds hate capitalism. Directionally, I agree with you. Manny said, I know what they are not doing. They are not thinking. Wait till mosquitoes pop up and, mosques. I thought he said mosquitoes. I've been down here in South Florida thinking about mosquitoes. He said, wait till mosques pop up in every corner. Okay, I get it. Prima said, Elon doesn't care about money. He cares about doing the work. I generally agree with you. Now, as long as he has enough money, I don't think money is his driver, though. How could it be? He already got the most. Carlos said, Democrats have created the emotional argument. Yes, Democrats are great at emotional arguments, and emotional arguments win elections. Let's not get it screwed up. Emotional arguments win elections. Joe Biden won in 2020 because he got everybody emotional to be against Trump. They didn't vote for Biden. They voted against Trump, and it worked. And Kamala almost made it work. So that works if you can do it right. Prima said the oligarchy funded the protests. Serenity said, we are in a gerontocracy and an oligarchy. Gerontocracy. I haven't heard that word before, but I know what you mean. A bunch of old people running things. And an oligarchy. Well, is there an oligarchy? I mean, there are some ways you could say that there is. But the people working in the government, most of them are not these super rich billionaires. They have money, but they're not Elon Musk. Elon Musk doesn't work in the government. User says, socialism is wonderful until you run out of other people's money. Yes, exactly. So it all sounds good on paper. It sounds good on paper. Tito said, you tried to do something. What are you referring to? Carlos said he wants illegals to vote. No, he probably does. Big Boy said it does. Actually, when billionaires are not paying their taxes, it falls back on the citizens. Well, Big Boy, billionaires do pay their taxes. They pay based on the tax code. And if you can work around the tax code to pay less in taxes, would you do it? I would. A few years ago, this is about 2000, maybe 20 or 2021. I was sitting in Brickell outside. I didn't have a suit on. I had on white t-shirt, some shorts. This is before I was wearing suits every day. And some people, they do those street interviews. So they stopped me to do one of those street interviews. I was sitting outside at a Capital One cafe. So they asked me what I do. I said, yeah. First question the woman asked me, she said, do you think it's fair that billionaires pay less in taxes than the rest of us? My response to her question was, well, first of all, how do you know that I'm not a billionaire? Because this woman didn't know me. So how are you just assuming I'm not a billionaire? And then she said, are you a billionaire? I said, no, I'm not. Then she said, okay, do you think it's okay that billionaires pay less in taxes than the rest of us? And I said, yes, it's okay. The reason it's okay is because the United States has a tax code. And based on the tax code, if you and your accountant or whoever you're working with can figure out a way to work through the loopholes in the tax code and pay less of your money in taxes so you can keep more of your money and use it how you wish, rather than giving it to the government who's going to use it ineffectively and inefficiently anyway, why would you not do it? So anyone who has the access and the ability to keep more of their money and not give it to taxes should absolutely do it. So if billionaires, quote unquote, are able to do that, then more power to them. And I could tell by the look on this woman's face that I know this video ain't coming out. I knew that video was never going to come out, and it never came out because they were looking for people to basically go along with the bullshit they were saying. Her question was framed incorrectly anyway. It was framed in a way as to push me in one direction. It was a poorly worded question. But anyway, the point is, a lot of people have this idea that billionaires should pay the same amount in taxes percentage-wise as everybody else. I don't think so. I think the tax code is written a certain way for a certain reason. And if you want to keep more of your own money, which I suggest all of you do, you want to keep more of your own money, then you want to find ways to not have to give money to the government. And the reason why you don't want to give money to the government is because government is very ineffective and inefficient with money. They fumble the ball every time the government has money. They make the situation worse. That's why we're $36 trillion in debt. That's why we get inflation. That's why the money that you pay in taxes, you don't see where the money's coming back from. Why would you want to give your money to the government? Why do that? Why do it? Now, I understand that some money is necessary because we got to fill the potholes and put the street lights up. Yes, I get it. All right, so let's not be absurd and go to the absurd absolute here. I understand that some money needs to go, And you're paying some money because some money's getting taken out of your taxes, especially if you have a job. They're just taking it. They don't even ask you, they just take it. And when you go to the store and buy groceries, there's taxes. All right, some of that money ends up in the government's pockets. So they get something. But this whole concept that billionaires are not paying their taxes and that ends up costing everybody else, it sounds good if you've been listening to Bernie Sanders enough. It's not the reality. DZNTS said, Bernie explained how it works. Well, just because Bernie explained it doesn't mean it's true. All right, politicians tend to stretch the truth a little bit, in case you didn't know. Aurora said, look at New York taxes, tolls, crime, and Sharia law. They think it's going in New York. Damien said, take some money from the defense budget. It'll pay for a lot of stuff. That's true. You're right about that. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Even though you're right, I don't think it's ever going to occur. Vivian said, thank God that would never happen in Florida. I don't even know what you're referring to, but anything happening in New York ain't happening in Florida. So whatever you're talking about, you're right. Whatever you're talking about, that ain't happening. Rent freeze while taxes go up, think. That's what people think. I don't think he's going to freeze the rents. I think he's going to throw the idea out there, but there's no way he's getting that through the legislature. I don't think that's going to happen. RNJ says, saying what people want to hear. Yes, that's pretty much how politics works. Traditional said the name sounds African. Yeah, all these delusional Democrats, Primus, ignorant jurisprudents are pretending to know. Well, they're not pretending to know. They're just going off what they want to believe. That's pretty much how people think. That's how it is. Primus said, we have problems because people are ignorant in law. Well, we got problems for more than that reason. Tuna Breath said, dude, don't be delusional. What am I referring to? What are you referring to, rather? Aurora said, New York is now the rotten apple. Wait for destruction. I hope not. Aurora, I hope you're wrong about that. I love New York. I wouldn't live in New York, but I love visiting New York. Chris said Michael Bloomberg had 3 terms. So, yeah, the way it is, you could do 2 terms, and you got to sit out for a term, then you can come back. So that's how he did 3. I think he probably did 2, then left and came back. Or he did 1, left, came back, and did 2. Bobby Lobo said if New York elects him, they will effectively sign their own death warrant. Was Rudy Giuliani a Democrat or Republican? Giuliani was Republican, right? It wasn't that long ago. What was that, about 30 years? AJ said, what seeds do you think Trump planted for us? Well, he planted the MAGA seed. That one alone. That's the seed. That's the most important one that he planted. Poon said, I can't believe New Yorkers were considering Cuomo after what he did during COVID. Right. It was one of the reasons why he lost. Because that shit's going to get used against him anytime his name comes up. Maybe, I don't know who you're referring to. This person whose name you said. Ice Cream Daddy said, New York is beyond repair. My best advice would be if you're able, get out, leave now. Well, in 2020, a whole bunch of New Yorkers got out. And how do I know this? Because I live in South Florida. A bunch of them came down here. Shout out to all the New Yorkers in South Florida who abandoned New York, fled New York in 2020. A guy named Dre says, there was my idea about 10 years ago, but I said it with the 60% versus the other 20 and 20. What are you talking about? The middle? Okay. Well, Dre, this person commenting, Dre, this was not your idea. This idea has been going on longer than you've been alive. I don't know how old you are, but however old you are, this idea is older than you. Jackie said, where are MAGA supporters on Facebook? Are they afraid of the left or what? Well, Jackie, I think a lot of people just got fatigued with talking about politics on the internet because all it leads to is arguments that most people don't want to be involved in. That would be my guess. I don't think they went anywhere, though. I think they exist. They just don't want to get involved. I know a lot of people who are conservative in mind, and they're conservative when they talk to me in private, but they don't go publicly saying shit because they don't want to even deal with the back and forth backlash that comes with admitting that you're a conservative in America. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of conservatives who don't talk about it in public, but they're willing to talk to me about it because they see that I'm open-minded about these things and I wouldn't be offended by any belief that they have. Lauren said Adams doesn't have a chance to win animal control. What does that mean? No chance for Adams? Okay, so you are saying no, and as an independent, Adams is done? Okay, so I think I would agree with that without even knowing the details. Eric Adams pretty much finished. I know that I believe that you all are right about that. Lauren Carter HQ, good morning. JM Pack said, I'm hoping with the split Dem vote in New York, we can sneak a Republican in. Like who? Who's going to do it? Joel Bryant said, hopefully Adams wins. I'm not sure he has a chance. Candy said, Adams is running as an independent he knows is over. Yeah, I think it's done for Eric Adams, unfortunately for him, at least. Lauren said, New York is a Democratic stronghold and been that. Yes, that's what I've been hearing. That's why I was asking the question. If you win the Democratic, does it mean it's pretty much a wrap? And that sounds like what it is. But my question is, what was Giuliani? Wasn't Giuliani a Republican? Now, I know Giuliani was a long time ago, but he was a Republican, wasn't he? Tuna Breast said he never campaigned on any of that, just the economy, LOL. Poon said, why does New York not abide by the Second Amendment? Well, they got their own laws. Every state has their own laws. Lauren said, liberal, more left on social issues, moderate on economics. Cheezik said, Kumo will be independent. So the general's in November. Okay. Prima said, most of my family are Democrats are completely ignorant of the law. I think most people are ignorant of the law, just generally speaking. Marianne said, what are you talking this morning? Well, we were talking about this middle party in America, but then I pivoted to talking about this guy who just won the primary for the Democratic Party in New York City, Mr. Mamdani, who is a Democratic socialist. I don't like the way this is looking for you all New Yorkers. Prima said, you talk about people paying fair share of taxes proves you don't even comprehend law. Yes, well, fair share is a subjective term. People just throw the term around and change up what it means based on what argument they're trying to make. Fair share is whatever you are required to pay based on the laws in place. And a lot of people don't know enough of the laws in place to know what they can actually keep if they used the leverage that they had when it came to the tax law, which is why you probably often would need an accountant to help you navigate where you can save money on taxes. And you got to have a certain structure the way that you make money so you even are eligible. If you are a W-2 employee and you make all your money that way and the government is taking your money before you even have a chance to have a say. So you don't really have the option because you don't have the structure. But if you own a business, you have some possibilities to keep some of your own money, amongst many other things. So any of you not familiar with Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and his other books, and they'll explain it to you. Carlos said he would increase taxes on the rich. Every politician, well, not all of them, every Democratic politician says they're going to increase taxes on the rich. Missy says nothing in this world is free. Also true. Jackie said, God help Illinois. Pritzker running another term. Well, y'all need God's help. Y'all need to vote. That's what you actually need. Tall said, even if you didn't vote for him, you voted for him, makes no sense. Yeah, so it's a metaphor, Tall guy. And that we have a democratic voting process. So no matter who you voted for, whoever ends up winning, that's who you voted for. Because that's the person you get. So whoever you voted for, the winner is the person that you voted for because that's who you got. So if I'm in a rap group, let's say I'm in a rap group or an R&B group, and there's 4 of us in the group, and we're trying to decide what song to sing. Let's say 3 of us in the group. We're trying to decide what song we're going to perform. I want to perform this song, and my 2 group members, my 2 other members, they want to perform this song. Even though I voted for this song, I voted for this song because that's the one we end up singing because majority wins. So in the democratic voting process is majority rules. So even if you didn't vote for the outcome that is chosen, you voted for it because you did vote and you got that outcome. So what I'm speaking from is a results-based frame, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's a metaphor. Darrow said, what's this new party? It doesn't actually exist. It's just a theory. Demystify said, my statement is false. Which one? Jackie said, look at countries who have tried socialism as a proven failure. Yes, I agree. Ann said, New York is going down. Socialism is very bad. Republicans ran out of New York. Well, I think the last 2 are right. I hope New York doesn't go down. I'm hoping y'all are wrong about New York going down. McDerrick said, thanks for proving you are brainwashed about socialism. And he put a crying emoji around it. So this is a straw man of the day by McDerrick. McDerrick, congrats on the straw man of the day. So I don't think I'm brainwashed about anything. But straw man is when someone takes something I say, they rephrase it into something that I didn't say, and then they either pose it as they attack it, or they ridicule it, or they pose it as a question, or just a blanket statement that is allegedly throwing my words back at me, this is not what I said. And this is Straw Man by McDerrick. So congratulations. Forever said capitalism is not good for the middle class. Sure it is. Capitalism is good for anyone who takes advantage of the opportunities afforded by capitalism, such as entrepreneurship and the free market. Capitalism is good for anyone who takes advantage of what it makes available. Now, if you don't take advantage of what's available through capitalism, then yes, capitalism can suck for anybody. Eat More said, how are they going to have public grocery stores? I don't know. I think Mr. Mamdani needs to answer that question. But I don't think people demanded him answering the question. They voted for him anyway. So Harold said, as a Democrat, Socialist Party is not the same as socialist. Israel is democratic socialist. Well, I'm just reading what Mr. Mamdani said in his X profile. Lawrence said Mamdani cannot win in November, even if Kumo. Oh, he can win, even if Kumo runs independent. Although Kumo isn't done. Yeah, Kumo's not done. He's going to try. I think Mamdani is going to beat him, though. I think this has been settled. I think this one has been settled. Strategic says Zoran is playing a political playbook, as he should. We'll see if he delivers. I don't think he will. Random Experience said the bus running faster would just be something with the schedule and the routes. Yeah, I mean, how are you going to make a bus run faster, though? What is he going to do? I don't think he's going to do much. I think it just sounds good. This is all just political theater, folks. You make promises so you can win the election. You figure it out. Figure it out later. Make promises now, figure it out later. That's how politics works. Lauren said Mamdani won't be able to achieve most of his agenda. No, I don't think he even plans to achieve it. John said, do I think Cuomo is better than Mamdani? No, I think Kumo has a track record that can be used against him, and that's what happens when you're an incumbent. People just use your track record against you. And his track record, what he did with those nursing homes, he can't undo that. That's why he has a problem. Well, his problem is obvious now because he just lost. User said, funny how you say Trump is doing everything he promised. Well, I was speaking directionally. Most of the things he's doing are things he said he was going to do. Someone said war failed. No, we're not at war yet. Drill baby drill failed. No, that's not failed. He's just started. He only 6 months into his term, remember? Don't forget he gets 4 years. He only did 6 months. Chris said, I don't think he's going to win. Lauren said, Eric Adams is done. Okay. Carla said, bus is being faster means he's going to tax everybody else on the road so that they can't be in the way of the bus. Okay, that might be it. Maybe that. Now, that will make the buses faster. If there's no other cars on the street, then the bus will be very fast. Lauren said he ended his chance when Trump killed his Fed case. Okay, fair enough. 414 said we need a middle party to take back all the money stolen by the billionaires. What money did they steal? I don't mind the middle party idea, but what money did the billionaires steal? Who they steal it from? And said New York deserves what it gets. Yes, it does. I mean, if you vote for it, that's what you get. Same as America. There needs to be a combination of socialism and capitalism. Okay, I understand that directionally. That would require a conversation, but directionally, I get what you're saying. You provide some type of safety net for the average person because most people they're not going to take advantage of what capitalism offers. Those are the people who get most mad about capitalism. But those who take advantage of capitalism are happy with it. So it just depends on what you do. And I believe life should be based on what you do, not how you feel. But not everybody thinks the way that I think. We're at 100,000 likes, folks. I appreciated everybody on TikTok for getting the likes up. Serenity said, we pay enough taxes for universal health care and education. Generally, I like the idea of universal health care and education. The problem is, how do we actually do it? How do you make it happen? How do you get universal health care and education? Because the doctors and the teachers and the professors who are giving these things, they're doing the administration. They have to get paid. So where is that money going to come from? Now, if it's going to come from the government, they would have to print more money and put more money into circulation, which is going to lower the value of the dollar, which increase the cost of everything. So even though we got those things for free, everything else will cost more. And I'm painting with a very broad brush at a high level here, but will people be okay with that? Everything costs more money, but your healthcare is free and your education is free. I generally would not, but I would understand if the average person would. Lauren said, America already has socialism. We aren't a pure capitalistic economy. That's right. We do have some levels of socialism. What I think is being pushed here is a little bit more. Chris said, New York rent is sky high. Oh, of course it is. And he said he's going to freeze it. He didn't say he's going to lower it. He said he's going to freeze it. Jad said, I can tell bro hates the modern NBA. No, are you talking about me? I don't hate the modern NBA. Socialism is like the participation trophy where capitalism is you have to actually work with. Generally, you're correct. Katarina, that's right. Heck said, I don't want to support people who don't want to work as hard as I do. Well, the heck, you sound like a registered capitalist. And a lot of people don't like you because you said what you said. But I agree with your angle. The problem is there's not enough of us for that idea to just be the set idea. And if I got into politics, I would have to accept that most people ain't capitalists. That's the issue. Most people don't think that way. And you can't have 30% of your population living on the street because they don't think this way. Something has to be done because we are the government, so we don't want people laying on the streets. That still makes you look bad as the politician, even though you may have that belief. See, that's the issue. If I was a politician, I would have to accept this reality. I accept this reality now, but I would have to acknowledge it. Forever said, capitalism by itself does not work for the middle. You cannot have a strong economy without a strong middle. Capitalism works for the middle because capitalists, people who start businesses, they have these businesses where they need employees. And who do they employ? People in the middle class. It works. It does work for the middle. It depends on what you do when you work there. What are you doing with your money? Are you making enough money? Are you providing enough value to make the money that you need to make to take care of your family? These are all questions that need to be asked. Well, heck said, how do people in government become millionaires? Because they have access. That's the reason why people get in government, for the access. Live Free said, Irish Spring soap repels mosquitoes. All right. Carla said, don't do your taxes yourself. Have a reputable tax professional do them. Yeah, fair enough. Miss Lamar Crump, thank you. Serenity said, it's redundant to file income taxes. The IRS already has the info. I mean, technically they do, but they don't have the resources to go hunt down every single person to make sure that you gave them the right info. They only hunt down certain people. Candy said they do it by hurting the working class. How so? Mama Catcher said, Mr. You're totally wrong. Capitalism is a two-tiered system. The rich are kleptocrate and the poor. I never heard of kleptocrate. Kleptocrate? I never heard that word before. But okay. Explain to me more. Tell me more. Strategic Brand said billionaires are forced to pay taxes. They will leave with their businesses, or if they're forced to pay too much in taxes. I mean, they still pay. Most of the money that the United States government collects in taxes come from, quote unquote, the rich. Chubb Rocks. I hired an accountant 5 years ago. It's definitely helping me keep more of my money. Yes, that's what they're supposed to do. And if they weren't, you probably fire them. Candy said billionaires get a lot of money from government, particularly developers. Yes, but the reason they get the money is because they're developing something. I mean, you get money from government because you're helping the government do something that the government wants to do. So they give you money. That's how it's supposed to work. Carla said, cut out all the other programs going to other countries. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Sounds good. Chubb Rock said, I live in Massachusetts, so I'm taxed heavily. So keeping more of my money is key. Well, I think keeping more of your money is key for everybody, no matter where you live. I was looking at California a few years ago, possibly moving to LA. And then we were looking at, number one, the housing it cost more, but it was older than in South Florida. South Florida, all the housing is new. All the housing is relatively new because I don't know why, but it is. In California, all the housing is old. Like these houses have been sitting there and these apartment buildings have been sitting there forever. And then it costs more money than Miami. I'm like, that don't make no sense. And the income tax in California is ridiculous. Florida has no income tax. So I said, no to California. Stayed here in South Florida. I'm glad I made that decision. This is before the virus and all the other stuff. Good decision by me. Renee said, literally college courses teaching how to take advantage of the lowest taxes. Anybody heard of CPAs? Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't even need a college course. You can go on fucking ChatGPT can tell you how to do it. Hunter said, take all you use or do. You pay a tax of everything. Count your taxes up for 30 days to see the amount. That's true. Yes, everybody paying taxes on something. Michelle, good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for the hand hearts. But Heck said Giuliani was a Democrat, then he switched. Okay. And then Gold Panther said Giuliani was and is a Republican. All right, so can we get some clarity? It was Rudy Giuliani, a Democrat or a Republican? Jim said Bloomberg extended term limits. I remember because I lived in NYC when that happened. Okay. Strategic said Bloomberg had 3 consecutive terms after 9/11. Well, wasn't Giuliani the mayor during 9/11? Because I remember Giuliani was walking around with the New York hat after 9/11. Richard said 100 Dems voted against impeaching Trump. Why do you think? Because impeaching him is just for theater. They're not going to remove him. Was Rudy Giuliani a Democrat or a Republican when he was mayor of New York City? And what years did he serve? Also, what years did Mayor Bloomberg serve in New York? And how long were his terms? And did he do anything to extend the term limits in New York City? So let's get some clarity on these things because a bunch of you are throwing out information. I'm a sponge for information, so I just like to make sure I can verify. So we are trusting the research of ChatGPT here. So Rudy Giuliani was a Republican while serving as mayor. He served 2 terms starting in January of 94 up until December of 2001. So I remember him being mayor during 9/11. I remember him walking around with the New York hat and all that. Michael Bloomberg was mayor of New York from January of 2002. So he came right after Giuliani, 2002 until December of 2013. He did 3 consecutive 4-year terms. Now, how the hell did he do that? The term limits, each term is 4 years. Now, the term limits got changed. Okay. So initially, it was a 2-term limit that was approved in 93. But in October 2008, the city council voted to extend term limits to 3 terms, which allowed him to run again. So he was able to do 3 because in 2008, the city council said you could do 3 terms. This change applied solely to Bloomberg and others at the time. And then it was overturned in 2010 in a public referendum reinstating the 2-term limit thereafter. So Bloomberg somehow, some way, got the city council to vote to extend term limits to 3 terms. Then he did 3 terms. Then in the middle of his 3rd term, it got revoked. So he's the only one who got to cheat and get 3 terms and it went right back to having 2 terms. Now that sounds like some fishy shit right there. We got New Yorkers in here. That sounds real fishy right there. So it was always 2 terms. He got it extended to 3 terms just for himself. And then while he was on his 3rd term, it got pushed back to 2 terms. That sounds real convenient for Mr. Bloomberg. Real convenient. All right, we're going to wrap this up in a second, folks. We're almost at 10 o'clock. I usually stop at 10 o'clock, but there's been a lot of comments here today. Oh, damn, Florida said, what do you do for a living? You're extremely smart. Well, thank you. But one thing I do is be extremely smart. But what I do is I run a company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. You can learn more about that by going to the link in my profile here on TikTok, where we have books. As you can see, some of these books behind me, all the books you can see behind me are my books. What we do is we take professional execution and discipline and we turned it into a system. That's what we do. So we work with sales teams, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with transitioning professionals, and we help put mindset, strategy, and systems in place for professional level, consistent execution. That's what we do over here. We do that through coaching, speaking, consulting, courses, training, etc. You can learn more at workonyourgame.live. That link is in my profile and is pinned on all the apps where I'm streaming right now. Laura said, if this guy wins, do you think New York will be in better or worse shape? I think over time, worse. I think over time worse, but I hope New York survives. I mean, hard times can be survived. I love New York. Again, I don't want to live in New York, but I love New York. Carlisle said, why should I pay more in taxes because I got an education and I work harder? I generally agree with that. Yes, we hit 100,000 likes. Thank you, Marky Man. Any government involvement will be a failure. It doesn't matter. I agree. I'm not a fan of government getting involved in anything that involves money or anything else, by the way. Mondani was a campaign of hope, says Wendy. Yes, it was, and it won. Campaigns of hope win. They work very well. Let's see. I'm just trying to get through the rest of these comments so we can wrap this up, folks. I am based in South Florida, Alex Ponder. Alex Ponder, South Florida. So anywhere from Miami-Dade, Broward County, onto Palm Beach. Anywhere from those 3 counties, they know me. All right, that's where I'm based in, South Florida. Your angel said Mondani will make businesses leave New York. Well, based on what he's saying, yeah, I think you're right about that. If he does the things that he's saying, he's going to try. Now, let's see if he actually does it. Chris from Florida says competition breeds lower prices with capitalism. When we let them get fat and monopolistic, it doesn't. That I agree with, yes. That's the reason why they have antitrust laws. Generally, you're right. Your angel says socialism doesn't work. Well, it does work. It depends on what you wanted to. What's my take on Gavin? Gavin who? Newsom? I think he's the best hope the Democrats have. I don't think that's good for the Democrats, but I think it's the best hope that they have. Trust Assistant said, does your wife do the taxes? No. Serenity said, 2008, they used socialism to save businesses that should have failed. Okay, there you go. Fair enough. Jackie said, why don't public schools teach how to thrive in a capitalistic economy? They teach wage slavery. Why? Well, why do you think, Jackie? They teach wage slavery because they want to create more wage slaves. That's the whole point. If they teach you how to thrive in a capitalistic economy, you wouldn't need to go get a job and get wages. Then you would not be a product of the system. You would make your own system. They don't want to do that. I did a whole episode on my podcast, Jackie, explaining that, what school doesn't teach and why it doesn't teach it. It wasn't that long ago, as a matter of fact. See if I can find what episode that was. It was just, I remember listening because I listened back to my own episode. So this was on June 5th, so 3 weeks ago. Episode 3309. What school does not teach and why? You see it right there. 3309. So who was asking that question? Jackie's Daily Blessings. I answered that question right here. And one of the points was what you just said. First one is entrepreneurship. School does not teach entrepreneurship. They don't teach sales. They don't teach personal finance. And why? I explained it right here in this episode. This episode is 27 minutes long. Came out on June 5th. This is on my podcast. It's called Work on Your Game. Comes out every single day for free. Find it on Apple or Spotify. Crespo Realty, good morning to you. And thank you. You like the tie. So go listen to my podcast, Jackie, and you'll see why they don't teach it. And also on top of that, who's going to teach it? The teachers? The teachers are full-time employees. They can't teach you how to take advantage of capitalism. They're the wrong people. You need people who are actually involved in capitalism involved in a entrepreneurial way to teach it. Appreciate you, Daniel Lee. Now, I know some of you need to drop. I'm going to drop in a second, too, because I got things to do here, and I need to go to the bathroom. Marky said, I watched your dribbling video. You are talented. Oh, yeah, that's back when I used to play basketball, yes. Tiffany said it wasn't elective. Exeter said Newsom ruined California. He would destroy the U.S. I don't think he's going to win. I don't think Newsom will win the election in 2028. I think he's going to be the nominee as of today, but I don't think he's going to win. Progress says some schools do teach those things. Yes, they do. Some schools do try to teach those things. I think the system is still faulty, though, because to really teach them, you need somebody who's in the game actually doing it. You can't have somebody teaching from theory. One of the biggest challenges I have with the education system in America is you have a lot of people teaching things from theory. They're teaching things they've never actually done. You got science teachers who've never been scientists. You got law professors who've never practiced law. You have people teaching things they've never actually done. I don't like it. People teaching. I got a business degree from Penn State University, and most of my professors were full-time employees. They were full-time professors. They don't know anything about running a business. And what I found out is that the business degree is not about running a business. It's about working at somebody else's business. Even that, the only business they're working at is a school. But they were teaching these theories about working in the business world outside of academia, which they have no experience in and no qualifications in. But they're the ones teaching you a class so that you can get a degree and go get a job doing something other than what your teacher was teaching you. But that makes no sense. The teachers at school should be people who are actually doing the thing that the students want to learn how to do. So you want to be an entrepreneur, you should learn that from an entrepreneur, not from a fucking college professor. That doesn't even make sense. But colleges can't hire an entrepreneur because you can't hire an entrepreneur. I mean, the fact they're an entrepreneur is you can't hire them. That's the reason why you can't hire them. So this is the reason why college doesn't always make sense depending on what you want to do. If you want to learn business, go learn from someone who's actually doing business. And the money you would spend going to college, you can spend a fraction of that money paying somebody to be a coach or something, get into a coaching program that can actually show you entrepreneurship for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time. You get into one of my coaching programs, you will be ready and able to make money and start making money within 90 days, not 4 years. And you're definitely not going to have a $200,000 loan to pay back. Jackie, I appreciate you. Glad you found me here today. Progress said most don't, most schools don't. Yeah, they don't. Because they don't have first of all, they don't have the freedom to do so. And secondly, they don't have the resources. They don't have the people. You need people for that. Just here for the content said that's why most degrees are BS. Yes, you're right. I got a degree and my degree was BS. My degree was useless. Is useless. I'm still alive. It was useless. Crespo said, depending on the teacher, they bring in an entrepreneurial person, but very rare. Yes. Some teachers will bring in an entrepreneur, but that entrepreneur, the teacher has to know the entrepreneur, number one. And the entrepreneur has to be acceptable enough that they can walk into a college classroom and say something. Like, I have not been invited to come speak to a college class. And there's a bunch of colleges. I live in South Florida. There's colleges all over the place here. I don't get invited. Well, first of all, I don't know a lot of college professors who live here, but I'm sure some of them have come across me. But they're like, listen to what this guy is saying. And some of the things I say, they say, I can't bring this guy in because maybe they disagree with me, or they think somebody in their class is going to look me up and disagree with something that I said is going to become a bigger problem than it's worth. So you know what? Let me just leave Dre alone. Let me go find somebody more safe who knows less and has less experience and less expertise, but they're more safe. So let me bring them to come speak to my entrepreneurial class. That's what ends up happening, is that the people who get brought in to speak to college students are the people who are safe enough that the school is not risking anything by bringing that person in. Whereas the person who has the most knowledge and the most insight that could actually help the students the most, that person is not so safe. So they don't touch that person with a 10-foot pole. And this is how you end up getting these lower level people trying to teach things that they're unqualified to teach. Because if the University of Miami really wanted to teach entrepreneurship, they would have somebody like me in there teaching it, and they would pay me enough money that it made sense for me to go teach it. I would teach the class. I like teaching stuff to people. I enjoy it. If they pay me enough money, I would do it. Problem is, they would go look me up on the internet and see the stuff that I've talked about and the stuff I say on social media and the comments that I leave responding to people. They would say, this guy is not safe. Or a parent's going to find out about him. One of our students is going to be offended by something that he said. He won't trash Donald Trump. He said it's crazy for a boy to become a girl, and we got a boy who's a girl sitting in the middle of our classroom. How the hell is that going to work? You know what? We can't bring this guy in. Let's go get somebody else. Somebody who has half the knowledge but is a lot safer. That person we can bring in. And that's what ends up happening. That's what the educational system is. They got a bunch of underqualified people teaching subjects that they have no business talking about. Whereas the qualified people, they won't bring them in because the qualified people are not controllable. People who are most qualified to teach subjects are the least controllable individuals, because if they were controllable, they probably wouldn't have the qualifications that they have, because they'd be out in the world doing what they want to do rather than doing what they have to do. And when you work for someone else's organization, you do what you have to do. And I can say anything that I want on any subject, any day. I can take every opinion I've shared here today and have the exact opposite opinion tomorrow and face no penalties. But your favorite college professor, they can't do that. That doesn't mean that they don't know their stuff on certain subjects, but a lot of them don't know their stuff on certain subjects, especially in the business realm. If you're a full-time employee at a university, how the hell are you teaching business or entrepreneurship? That doesn't even make sense. User said Epstein taught college. Well, Epstein was a successful investor. Let's not forget. That's how you think he owned an island. It's not like he was broke. Jackie said, I'm a teacher, and that is so true. LOL. Do then teach. Yeah, I know it's true. I got a lot of teachers in my family. My mom's an educator. My sister's an educator. One of my best friends from college is an educator. A lot of people I know are in the education space, and a lot of them are teaching from theory. They're teaching things they never actually did, and they get a full-time income from doing it. And I'm not knocking them as people. I'm knocking the system. The system is trash. Candy said, teachers in prison, business owners. Oh, yes. The prisons. Now, see, a prison can hire me to come teach because they don't give a damn. Who's going to be mad at me? ain't no complaining in the prison. They can bring me. A prison can bring me in to teach entrepreneurship. They should, as a matter of fact. The problem is they ain't got no money. Just here for the content. So I'm a law office administrator, OTJ, on OTJ experience, on the job experience. Fair enough. User said, I love your lives. Thank you. Spin said, good morning. Progress. I've never seen a successful person admit their degree is BS. Oh, well, my degree is BS. Yes, my degree is BS. I have a degree in business, but it was taught by a bunch of employees, which doesn't make sense now looking back on it. At the time, I didn't understand why it didn't make sense then, because I didn't know what I know now. Now, looking back, I'm like, this was nonsense. I got a business degree from a bunch of employees. That doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, to give college some credit, the business degree was not teaching you how to have a business. It was teaching you how to work at a business. There's a difference. So when they say business, it can mean more than one thing. Business does not always mean the same thing. Most of my college classmates who had the same degree that I have, they went and got jobs working at someone else's business. Now, the business degree can teach you how to do that, how to go get a job and work for somebody else. College will teach you how to do that. College does not teach you how to go start your own business and hire people to work for you. Why? Because, again, who's teaching you how to do it? Somebody who's a full-time professor? Smith said, how do I sign up? Go to the link in my profile, SmithJ670, for my coaching program. Go to the link in my profile. It's workonyourgame.live, and you'll see links to our books, our coaching programs. Everything is on that page. So if you go to the link, those of you who are watching on TikTok, if you go to the link in my profile, it's workonyourgame.live. It's going to take you to a page that looks just like this. Actually, not looks like this. It is this. This is the page, workonyourgame.live. Like the live stream, here's your next move. And we tell you all your options for your next move. Email list, get in my group coaching program. We got a full coaching program, my Spotify, Apple links to my podcast, links to get my books for free, links to follow me on X or to follow me on Instagram. All of those are in here on this page, workonyourgame.live. Just here for the content said controllable people are less successful. Well, it depends. Depends on how you define success. Depends on how you define it. Jackie said, that's so true. As a teacher, I know this firsthand. Yeah, I know. Papa Langet said, so what's their purpose? Who are you talking about? Who's they? Tiffany, good morning. What are you responding to? Edgar said, bro, most college professors have PhDs. How are they not qualified? Edgar, are you joking? I think you're serious, but I'm asking if you're joking because that's a ridiculous question. Having a PhD, what does that make you qualified to do, Edgar? And let me ask you that question, and while I wait for you to answer, I'll tell you the answer. Having a PhD, similar to having a college degree, makes you qualified to do what? It makes you qualified to show other people how to get a PhD or get a degree. I can teach you how to get a degree because I got one. I can tell you exactly what to do. I'm not qualified to go teach you. Let's say I get a college degree in entrepreneurship. Let's say there's a degree program for entrepreneurship and I get the degree. That doesn't mean I'm qualified to teach you how to be an entrepreneur because I haven't done it yet. All I did was get a degree. So if you have a degree, you are qualified to show other people how to get a degree. And if you notice, a lot of college professors, and this is exactly what Edgar said. Listen to what Edgar said here. He said most college professors have PhDs. So you know what most college professors do? They go get a job. Well, most PhDs, excuse me. Not most PhDs. Most college professors who have PhDs, all they're doing is teaching the next wave of people who are going to get PhDs. They are qualified to do that. So Edgar, in one way, you are correct. That a college professor with a PhD, and I know a few of them as a matter of fact, they have a PhD, and you know what they do? They teach the next wave of students who are trying to get a PhD. For that, they are qualified. Now, if you're teaching something that you have never done, you are teaching from theory, you are not qualified. I don't care what the subject is. Anything you get a PhD in, you are not allowed to teach that thing unless you have been in the field 10 toes down actually doing it. If you haven't actually done it, you are unqualified to teach it. I don't care who hires you to do it. They hire you because of what I just explained. The system is designed in that way. But if you're going to teach something, you better have actually fucking done it. In the capitalistic world, the free market, if you haven't done something, you can't teach it because nobody's going to believe you. When I'm selling something, I say to people, I will help you with your business. I will help you with entrepreneurship. The first thing you're going to ask is, who are you and what have you done as an entrepreneur? If I can't answer the question, then you would never hire me. You're right. Well, you never did entrepreneurship. How are you going to teach me? What, are you reading from a book? It doesn't make any sense. But college professors do it all day. You got people teaching law that never actually practice law. How is that? Because they're teaching theory. And the thing is, the people who they're teaching, they're going to learn the theory. They're going to get a degree. And then they're going to get a job as a professor. And they're going to teach theory. And you got a whole bunch of people who know a whole bunch of theory. And they all got degrees to prove it. And they all think that they're smart because they learn theory. And they hang around other people who learn theory and think they're smart. And they all are telling each other that they're smart because they all got degrees teaching theory. And then when they run into somebody like me and I say, none of you motherfuckers know shit because all you did was learn theory and you read it from a book. And all you do is talk to other people who had the same qualifications, quote unquote, as you have. You have no qualifications because you haven't done it in the real world. None of them can say shit back to me because everything that I teach, I actually do. So all they do is actually stay away from me. This is why I get blocked by PhDs every day on social media. Because I call them out on their bullshit, the bullshit that is their careers. And there's nothing they can say back to me, so they just stay away from me. So this is the reason why I don't speak at colleges. So any of you want to know. I just explained it to you. I just gave you a good demonstration for I don't speak at colleges. So Jackie said, well, how to work at a business, but not how to run a business. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Angela said, God bless President Trump, our awesome patriots. Truth wins. Yes, the truth always wins. Just here for the content said, going to PhD is a career and going to school. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Getting a PhD is a career and going to school. And then what you do is get a job teaching other people how to go to school. I mean, it's a cool job. If you can get the job and you can keep that job, you can work there and you get tenure and you got a guaranteed job for life. I ain't knocking your hustle. Okay, so any PhD holders listen to this. There's nothing personal against you. Now, I'm not knocking your hustle. I'm just saying don't bring that bullshit around here because I'll call you out on your bullshit. Now, you stay in that college campus bubble, nobody's going to call you out because they can't. Because they did the same thing you did. So why would they call you out? Modern Ranger said, Ragnar said, I know a guy who was completely book smart and got his ASC certification, but he couldn't actually work on the cars. Yeah, exactly. Because he knew a whole bunch of theory. He hadn't actually did it. Papa said, what is that the schooling system wants to achieve? They want to create automatons. They want to create robots. They want to keep you in the matrix like that guy whose name I can't say always says. You know that guy whose name I can't say? Literally, if you say his name, TikTok will flash a warning on the screen and kick you off. Y'all know who I'm talking about? Bald-headed guy who used to be a kickboxer, that guy. He keeps talking about the matrix. That's what the school is designed to do. School is part of the matrix. They just want to get you in and keep you in. And for the most part, it works. Progress said, I have a degree in engineering and coding, but I haven't applied it yet. Yeah, and as soon as you go do some engineering and do some coding, then you're qualified. That degree, all that does is put you in a position to maybe get a job. Just here for the content says, so true. I get lawyers out of law school and they have that theory down, but no real life law experience. Yes, exactly. Daryl says like learning about marriage from a dude who's never been married. Pretty much. That's correct. Progress said all you've done is read theory. That's assuming they don't cheat their way to a degree. Well, yeah, I'm talking about before you had no chat GPT and AI to help you get the degree where you did actually have to do the schoolwork. You did have, when I went to school, I did actually have to do some schoolwork to get the degree. Like, it was hard to cheat. I mean, you could have cheated, but it was harder to cheat. Now it's easy to cheat. So now we have no idea who's coming through our colleges. You're right about that. Socio Mike said there are a ton of applied PhDs. Academic PhDs also do research which pushes applied fields forward, such as, well, what kind of field we talking, Socio Mike? So Socio Mike is kind of defending the applied PhD. I believe that you're telling the truth there. That I believe that you're right directionally. That there are applied PhDs and you do research that pushes applied fields forward. But I need to know exactly what you mean by that. What applied field we're talking about? Yes, AT. That's the guy I'm talking about. The guy whose name I can't say. Who's always talking about the matrix. School is designed to create more people to live and work within the matrix. All right, Carl, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here as usual. So if you're doing research and pushing a field forward, research is a form of theory. Socio Mike, research is just theory. I did my research. That means you read a bunch of information. You read some studies. Maybe you did some, I don't know, research. The research is all about consuming information. I mean, isn't that what it is, Socio Mike? I'm waiting to see if Socio Mike responds. You got to hurry up because I got to go to the bathroom. But you are consuming material. Consuming material is the lowest level of expertise. Levels of expertise, and I'm ending on this note. Levels of expertise are this. Level 1 is consuming information. These are your college students and graduates, recent graduates. Level 2 is going and applying. That means you go get a job with what you have learned, and now you're actually doing it. Level 3 is when you start teaching it. So you have a job, and now the job asks you to train the next level of people to come in. That's level 3 of expertise. Level 4 is where you can sell the fact that you know the expertise. This is the person who works at a job for 20 years, says, I can start teaching this to other people. Why am I working at the job? They quit the job. They get their former employer to be their first client, and then they start a business doing the thing that they just had a job doing, or an entrepreneur who just starts it from the beginning. That's level 4 when you're getting paid. And level 5 is when you don't even have to try to get paid. They come looking for you to pay you, and you get to pick and choose who gets to give you money. Not everybody gets to level 5, but you can have a full-time career at level 4. You can make millions of dollars at level 4. Those are the levels of expertise. But level 1 is the people who read and research and consume material. These are your college graduates who have not applied anything that they learned in school. That is level 1 of expertise. You are not an expert when you're at level 1. That's not a real thing. All that being said, I do these live streams starting at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday Eastern. Socio Mike said research is producing knowledge, not consuming. A chemist PhD, for example, test out theory. Well, Socio Mike, key word from your sentence there is the word test. What does test mean? Test is a verb. That means you're doing something. You're taking an action. So Socio Mike, research is producing knowledge, not consuming. No, if you are putting new knowledge out there, that's not research. That is communication. That's doing a thing. Research is consuming. If I'm researching something, I'm not creating new things. If I'm researching, I'm consuming what's already out there. That's what research means. It means to consume what already exists. And I consume as many sources as possible. That's research. Now, when I test a theory, I'm getting more knowledge based on actual action. The test is an action. That's a verb. That's an action word. Now I'm actually in the game doing it. What I just explained, levels of expertise, consuming, doing. Level 2 is when you do it. So a chemist PhD who goes and tests out a theory is at level 2 because now you're actually doing the shit, not just reading about it. That's when you ascend to a higher level of expertise, is when you start actually doing it. And you say you test out a theory. That's fine. You have a theory and you test it. Now we got a whole new ball game, right? Socio Mike. I go to school, get a degree in business. I think I know business. I go start a business. Then when I start the business, real life differs from the lab test, no pun intended. And I find out, I didn't know shit about business. But now that I'm doing it, now I start learning things. And some of the theories that I learned in college might be applicable to what I do in my business. But it doesn't mean that what I learned in college is enough for me to run a business, because I didn't get any business knowledge from sitting in the damn classroom, listening to an employee tell me how to run a business. That's not a thing. Socio Mike said most professors do that work also, not just teaching. What work are you talking about, Socio Mike? You're speaking a little bit too vaguely here. What kind of work are you referring to? Because what kind of theory can you test out? Let's say you got a law degree and then you go straight to having a job working at a college teaching law. What kind of testing of theory can you do without actually practicing law? What can you do? What kind of testing of theory can you do when you got a degree at college from whatever, and now you're teaching business at a university? What kind of testing of theory can you do if you haven't actually run a business? As soon as you run a business, you move to level 2 of expertise. Level 1 is consume. Level 2 is when you do stuff. So when you start doing stuff with your theory, you are now at level 2. There's a different level. There are levels to this shit. Mike says empirical research is the use of science to produce new results. Okay, let's just assume that what you said is correct. And it seems like you're sticking to this science thing. I'm not really talking about science. I'm talking about business, and we're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about free markets, capitalism, and socialism. Socio Mike, you seem to be focused on this science aspect. Let's assume that what you're saying about science is correct. Does what you're saying about science apply across the board to all things that people can study in theory? The answer is no, it doesn't. And I'm assuming you know that that's true. And that's the reason why you keep focusing on empirical research and chemist PhDs, because it's a niche area in which you can find a way to be right. But generally speaking, your point is incorrect. And you know it's incorrect. So you're trying to find some detail that you can be right about. Don't try that shit over here. I told you, I'm pretty good at calling people out on their bullshit. Now, if I'm wrong about that, Socio Mike, explain to me how I'm wrong. I'll give you a minute to respond. So anyway, while we're waiting on Socio Mike, is what I was telling you all is that I do these live streams 8 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern. Usually we went over today, Monday through Friday. Topic is to be determined, usually a current event. Socio Mike said, business professors also do empirical research. I know many of them. No, that's bullshit, Socio Mike. No, what you just said is bullshit. Now, you could have just said that, all right, in the science area, that's what I'm talking about, and I would have accepted that. But now you're trying to extend this? No. Empirical research? Give me an example of some empirical research that a business professor does. So I'm teaching business. I'm a business professor at a college at University of Miami. What kind of empirical research can I do to where I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to running a business? I'm not talking about working at a business. Most business degrees are designed to help you get a job, because most of my college classmates went and got jobs working at companies. And at the end of our senior year, I realized, oh, damn, that's what this degree is about. I got into a business degree because I want to be a businessman, not because I want to get a job at a business. And that's when I realized, when I saw we were going around the class and people were talking about their internships and how they wanted to get a full-time offer from their internship, I said, oh, shit, that's what this degree is. This degree is not to learn how to run a business. This degree is to get a job. Oh, why didn't they tell me this from the beginning? I might have majored in something else. So Marky Man said, my son got a marketing degree and doesn't use it as a realtor. Well, my degree is in business with a focus in management and marketing. So I'm a marketer. I'm a full-time marketer. That's the real business when you're an entrepreneur is marketing. And is not really anything to use because, again, you're not learning from actual marketers. Now, had your son been learning from some marketers while he was in college, then he would have had some stuff he could use. Progress, I have a question. I'll ask you tomorrow. Yeah, hold it for tomorrow because I really need to go to the bathroom. I'm trying to give Socio Mike a minute here, but he seems to have disappeared. So we're going to wrap this one up, folks. Socio Mike, you can come back tomorrow. You can come up with some answers to that bullshit that you try to throw out there about empirical research. I'll give it to you in the science area. You want to stick to science? I'll leave it there. All right, science, fine. Chemists can do research and they can go in the lab and et cetera, et cetera. But even in science, as the saying goes, real life tends to differ from the lab test. So a lab test may say one thing. You go do it in real life, it turns out completely different. We know that this happens all the time. So Socio Mike, I'm assuming you are a PhD holder or you know some, or maybe you're married to one. Maybe that's why you're defending them. But you know what you just said is a bunch of bullshit. And it sounds good in the college classroom or you're sitting in some committee meeting on a college campus. I ain't one of those people, and I can say anything that I want, and I can call them out and beat the shit out of them verbally on any bullshit that they throw out there. And I know you're used to not having somebody say that to you because you're probably in a bubble where you can get away with that shit. Not over here. This is the open market, son. Open market, sir. In the open market, you got to bring some actual substance, or that's that. So I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. Work on your game. We are out of here.